He's getting cut.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Game Time Discussions. Me and Cam are sitting here talking about the San Francisco Rams game, which was absolutely disgusting and weird and great football if you are a defensive guy like me. Oh, is that you? Oh, okay. Great football if you're a defensive guy like me, but not fun to watch for most people. 12-6. The optimal line had double kicker, double defense, and I guess it would have been Puka
That
and
captain.
at
And,
cap. Yeah, it was
yeah.
weird. It was really, really gross. So hey, we're gonna move on to the next slate. We actually have some fun primetime slates coming up though, which is really cool. Great football if you're a kicker guy like me.
Well, where was your kicker call? Like,
Yeah,
you
help.
didn't see
What the
any
heck?
stands or comments. You're working internally, but it's okay.
I need
I
a
forgive
double
you.
kicker there. Come on, man. But looking at the slates though, we do have a fun pair of primetime slates coming up, which will be cool. Let me pull up let me grab the the picks page so we can get that going and we can actually look at those slates real quick. There we go. Talking about those slates, come all the way down. It's going to be Minnesota and the Bears. Who Bears have underperformed, of course, but they do have a completely new regime. And then the Vikings have been better than advertised. And then we have the Falcons and the Raiders. Also, Seattle and the Packers are the prime time because these are Monday night, both
Yeah,
on
there's
Monday
two
night. I
Mondays this
apologize.
week.
These are both Monday night games. The Packers and the Seattle Seahawks are the Sunday night football game. So
Yeah, and the Packers and Seahawks one is really fun and important, even more important for playoff implications because Green Bay's still holding on to the sixth seed in a really kind of somehow stacked NFC in terms of record. And then Seattle in a jumbled division where probably only one team gets in. They're currently in the lead. And so a home loss to an NFC team is not going to do well for them with the Rams beating them previously. And then on top of that, being able to tie them up, I think they would have the tiebreaker in the event that Seattle loses. Back to Bears and Vikings real quick. That was a banger of a fantasy game last time these two teams played. It went to overtime. TJ had his first 100-yard game in his second game back. Caleb threw for over 300 yards. DJ Moore had 100. Keenan Allen had 20 points. It was a lot of fun. So we're hoping the similar thing. Falcons are reeling right now. Raiders are hoping for the first pick. I guess that's the direction they want to go. And they have just a ton of people out. So hopefully a lot of fantasy goodness in that one. But there's a 3-game slate. There's a 2-game slate in terms of prime time or Monday. We'll talk about all of it if we can get to it. But yeah, a lot of fun games there.
Yeah, let's go up to the top though. As we said, the Rams and San Francisco. We did pick the Rams to win the game. Both of us did. I think you had so you had +3 for San Francisco just in a tight game.
I did not.
Huh?
I had the Rams at.
Oh, did you have the -3? Did I write that in wrong?
The 49ers were favored. So I had the Rams +3.
I see. It said San Francisco. That makes more sense. That's why
I don't know why I said San Francisco.
That's why mine's messed up. Okay. But yeah, so we're both green.
My apologies.
But yeah, so close game was what we were expecting, or what Cam was expecting. I was actually expecting a blowout and didn't get that. But I kind of did. I got twice as many points for the Rams. Correct. But it was 27-14 versus 12-6. So
internally, we at the very end of the day, we were on very different sides from a lineup perspective. But I was really kind of like, because at the very end you swap Cooper Kupp for Kyron.
Yeah,
and I was like, both of us agreed on him being the fade. Don't do it. And
yeah,
he ends up getting the goose egg, which was very, very unfortunate. But did your line end up cashing because you still had Puka at captain?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. We cashed because basically there was no point scored in the game. I had Jake Moody, so I got at least those 6 points. We didn't have Cardi, so that was tough. Good morning, Scott. Happy you're here, hanging out with us. We will be, going through all these games. Scott is a Chicago fan. We'll talk about that again in a minute. But looking at the other games on the slate, KC running away with it against the Browns makes a lot of sense. They are in Cleveland, but
that is, for the record, for fantasy implications, that is the worst weather game today. A lot of wind, should be some rain today. It's actually orange based on our weather report on Roto Grinders. So just kind of be wary if you're heavily invested in the Jerry Judys of the world, the Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey's, all that good stuff. It's more of going to be an ugly, grinded out game, which that's what Kansas City's been playing fair weather lately anyways. Yeah. So just kind of be wary of that game.
And then Cincinnati got 6 across. They get a Titans team. So basically, it's good teams playing bottom 5 teams, 3 in a row. We're gonna get the Chiefs, the Bengals, and then Washington, all 3 playing bottom 5 teams. And then the Ravens is actually another game, bottom 5 team. We can't have more than, I guess we're probably how about bottom 8 teams from there. But yeah,
That
the
one's
Ravens
actually
are
the
minus
biggest.
16 and a
That's the
half.
biggest spread on the entire season. At 16 and a half on the road is just not touching that whatsoever. But I understand why it is the way it is. They're going back to Tommy DeVito today. So
That's gross, though. That is
very
an
gross.
insane
And
number.
the scariest part of me on the entire DFS slate today is what to do with Derrick Henry, because he's going to play very little snaps than what he typically does. But is he going to have 150 yards and 3 touchdowns before he ends up sitting? That's the biggest kind of question I have with that game.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Scott. It is what it is, man. I'm a Raiders fan. Cam's a Dallas fan. I mean, nobody looks good in this whole situation. Dustin's feeling pretty good, an Arizona fan though.
Not in the last couple of weeks.
Well, true, but then Dallas. Dallas
Don't
is
be
actually,
depressed.
think about this. Dallas is currently picked 2 out of 6 to lose to beat Carolina.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm one of the only ones.
Carolina's favored.
Carolina's a +3 or -3 favorite right now.
Or
That
they're
is
still
nuts.
-3. Yeah, they were at -1 to start the week, and then all the way up to -3. So I just or I'm showing 2.5.
Oh,
I
you
guess it
okay?
depends on the place that you're getting it. But
Yeah.
either way, Carolina being favored, nobody would have expected that coming into the year. But it is what it is now. I honestly, as a fan of Dallas, will be rooting for a loss, because
Mhm.
I would at this point just prefer
A
the
nice
better
draft
draft
pick.
pick. Nothing is going to come of winning games like these. So I just want a happy 6-11 season with the top 8 pick and have fun with that.
It's COD. It's COD 2 XP weekend, pencil in a
Pencil
loss. Yeah,
What a
okay.
comment.
The Jets
it.
and the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mac Jones will be starting that game. So everybody basically picked the Jets, except for we have one Jaguars pick from Clay. I don't have a lean. It's 2 bad teams playing each other.
Yeah, I already kind of swore off picking against the Jets, and they would have made me feel even worse if I went over them the last 2 weeks, because they've had comeback losses back-to-back weeks. So
Right.
These 2 teams are fighting for a top 5 pick, and I don't think either team wants to win. But I think from a pride perspective, the Jets just kind of have more firepower at this point.
Yep. And then Houston, Miami split right down the middle of 3-3. I was actually surprised
That
by
might be
that.
my favorite game. Or no, second favorite game. Yeah, nothing clears the Buffalo Detroit game
game is
but
the best game on the slate.
any other team or game getting second place that has my interest is Dolphins and Texans, because Dolphins lose, they might be out of it entirely. And Houston coming off a bye, they just kind of got to get right, because they just haven't looked like themselves for a couple months now. So we'll just kind of see what that happens. But yeah, really fun game for me.
Yeah. And then going on to the next one, Denver's 6 across the board against the Colts. I'm actually surprised by that. I was thinking somebody was going to pick the Colts. That is a very big game implementation for the playoffs. Denver basically has to win 2 games and they're in out of their last 4. This is the most winnable game of the 4. And then for the Colts, they need to win 3 of the last 4, and this is the hardest game on their slate actually is Denver. So it's a very big.
And that's what I was saying off air before, as we were prepping for the show. I think the Colts are going to go 3-1 the rest of the way, and I think Denver's going to go 1-3. But this is the most winnable game for Denver and the most losable game for the Colts the rest of the way. And you actually said that you might think the Colts will find a way to lose one of the next 3 after this, which they're playing 3 straight 3-10 teams.
Yeah, really bad.
Or worse. So that would obviously be an upset if any of those were to happen.
Yep. And then the game we were talking about, 3-3, Buffalo and Detroit. I was surprised that we both picked Buffalo going to Detroit. I think this Buffalo team is just hard to beat. My favorite team in the NFL is Detroit, just like how they're put together. But I don't see very many losses, and I think they're going to lose a game. And so here it is. This has to be the game, right?
That was why I really wanted to go with the Rams last week, because I was like, I don't see many L's for Buffalo. And at the time I was like, but at the same time now, Detroit, other than week 18, when they eventually rest all their guys because they're going to lock up the 1 seed, should Minnesota lose probably one more game at this point, and they play one more time. This is penciling in an L kind of thing, just playing the numbers and stuff like that.
Yep. And then this next game is actually pretty good. Also, we're going to have a clash of really good defense versus really good offense. Philly versus the Steelers. Everybody picking Philly. I thought that was actually honestly surprising also, because I think Pittsburgh has ways to upset Philly here.
The fun thing is, I know you were saying in our group chats, like the Thursday game was going how you wanted from an aesthetic perspective because defensive games,
Right.
which there was a lot of errors offensively and
Yeah.
just bad football. But this is a defensive game
Mhm.
that's going to be a 17-13, kind of slobber knocker. Don't know if I love it as a fantasy game, but just from an aesthetic perspective, I'm glad it's on. Or I honestly wish it was at the 12 o'clock slate so it wasn't going at the same time as the Buffalo
Right.
Detroit game, because I would want to watch the entire game because it's that exciting. I think both of these teams aren't as good as what their current record is,
Mhm.
but they're both very good teams and at this point top 3 teams in their respective conferences.
Yep. And then going down to the Patriots, the Cardinals. That's kind of the sicko game of the week. Cardinals have looked pretty rough in the last few weeks. Patriots are rough just in general. What did I miss?
I'm laughing internally because we're going to get into the DFS slate, and
Oh
Kyler
god.
Murray right now is the best valued quarterback, and he's burned us 3 straight weeks essentially, and so we're going to fade him today, and it's going to not work out in our favor again.
It'll be the
And it's
week
going to be
he
sad.
actually does well.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next game is this game is going to be a really fun game. This is kind of, you have one team that wants to run the ball, play good defense, and then you have another team that you have Baker on, and he's just going to try to chunk it as much as he can. So, Chargers and Bucks. We both picked the Chargers. They're favorited pretty heavily, but I think it's like 3.5 now or
Mm-hmm.
something, which is pretty good for a
Also a
game like
cross-country
this.
matchup, which is always tough and whatnot, but hopefully it's a very, very fun atmosphere and game. That afternoon slate is going to be a lot of fun to build. I'll tell you that much right now.
Oh yeah, and then the primetime slates, the Packers in Seattle, like we talked. I'm the only one picking Seattle, which is surprising to me because it's actually a pretty closely lined game at 2.5, and it's in Seattle, so maybe the home field advantage helps a little bit. But I will be picking Seattle, and then Minnesota all the way across the board, beating the Bears. Sorry, Scott. And then Atlanta all the way across the board, beating the Raiders. That one's on me. So. The Raiders are going to win this week for no reason, and it's because it's Desmond Ridder return. Like that's his return game. I think he'll play.
And I feel the exact same way, but with the Bears, and that's
Fair.
not even to make Scott excited, but they've also burned me a lot to have to confidently pick them. But I mean, this game went right down to the wire for all 3 of their divisional opponents, and they just botched the very end of the game. With this one, it wasn't like a poor call or poor coaching. They just got the ball first and took a sack and just didn't get the ball back. It is what it is. But I mean, last year Chicago almost swept Detroit, and obviously they were vying for being a top 10 pick and what have you with Justin Fields and Tyler Batten. And it still almost worked out in their favor twice.
Yeah.
So like they can still be good teams, and I don't expect a runaway, but at the same time I didn't last week. And San Francisco just dominated Chicago. So
yeah, Scott sent you some emojis, Cam. He doesn't believe in anything you're saying right now.
Well,
And
he should probably be in my boat of just like lose so that the new coaching regime can come in. You can have better draft picks.
You can get an
just,
edge. He'll get you an
stuff.
edge, man. James Pierce is there. You can go get Nick Scorton if you think that's the option. I mean, come on. You're going to have a top 10 pick, Scott. It is what it is. You're going to kind of hang out with me, but at least you're not looking for a quarterback in this terrible class. So, I get to enjoy that. So, looking at spread picks, we're both positive. That's really good. So,
you're killing it though. That is so good for just picking your 5 favorite every week and just almost 20 games above 500 is pretty strong.
I don't think I would play all of them if that makes sense either.
It's a tough week this week at least.
This is definitely a weird week, but I did pick Dallas to win, so I'm taking their that side. I picked Buffalo and Seattle to win. They're both all 3 of those dogs, so if they win, that'd be great. And then we're both on Cincinnati -5.5. They are just the better team against Tennessee, and hopefully they can put it together and not play another close game against a bad team. It's basically what they always do. So
right, and it's always good when it's a close game and they're both good teams. Being a home dog, usually taking that spread is nice. So you're probably the smarter side of the Seattle and Green Bay side. And that's why you're probably going to get it right, but it is what it
I
is.
do my best. And then, but yeah, you actually had Miami at +2.5 against Houston. I thought that was interesting, picking them outright, obviously, and that one is the only different, really.
I just think they're playing better, and so it's hard to trust Houston because their defense is good, but they give up big plays. Obviously, Jalen Petrie, one of their best defensive players, is no longer, or I mean, he's not playing for the time being, and
Right.
coming off a bye. On top of that, CJ Stroud, he's playing his worst football.
Right.
Tua is really hitting his stride right now, so that's just kind of the sides that I'm going.
Fair enough. I'm going to switch over to the early only slate. So if you're watching this, we're going to go to early only. Early only is it's a fun slate. It's just I'm not as comfortable with the quarterbacks on this slate versus the later slate. I wish they, like you said earlier, wish they put some of the other games a little earlier, because our first quarterback is going to be Jaden Daniels. He is the, I believe, most expensive quarterback on this slate at 7,500.
Second behind Lamar Jackson.
Oh, Lamar. Yeah, I forgot. But yeah, so Jaden Daniels is going to be first off, and then of course his pass catcher Terry McLaurin. And Brian Robinson Jr. is a guy we were going to talk about a lot today. So,
and then also I just wanted to mention De'Ami Brown at 3,100
mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that I'm pulling up his snap counts now, but Noah Brown is now out for the year to IR over the bye. And last time they played in week 13, he actually jumped up above 50% of the snaps. So he was the main beneficiary. And then Luke McCaffrey and Olamide Zaccheaus were splitting the wide receiver 3 role. And so really, he's going to inherit probably 75 to 80% of the snaps, which is what Noah Brown had been doing over the last 2 months. I mean, 73, 80, 89. So he's going to inherit that by default. If you look at his last game, 5 targets, pretty reasonable workload for somebody 3,100. So if you want a Jaden Daniels who's in a great spot today, and you want to get different, doing a double with him is I think an interesting way to go.
My computer got mad at me. Hold on. Let me make sure I get.
No, you're good. Up. And then on top of that, obviously, it seems like the early on the slate is one where basically the ownership up top is, and everybody just wants to play an expensive quarterback.
Right.
So Jaden's showing some ownership, but Terry's only less than 12%. De'Ami Brown, I can't even find him. Actually, he's actually, I guess, just slipped him, but he's less than 10%. But he'll probably be less than 5% on the main slate,
right?
At least. And then Zach Ertz has been just catching. Yes. He's been getting a lot of red zone look, and Ben Sinnott has just not really eaten at all into his workload at all. Those same snap counts, he actually only played 66%, but it was again in a blowout against Tennessee last game. But he's mainly been hovering 75% plus in competitive games this year. So really solid floor for a $4,000 tight end. A lot of options and ways to go if you wanted to do a double with Washington today.
Yeah, these are my guys right here. If you're going to, with Austin Eckler is out for this game, Jeremy McNichols is going to be the backup. So I would expect Brian Robinson to inherit some of that pass catching game. I think probably. What was do you know the snap counts? Actually, if you could pull them up for the game when Austin Eckler missed earlier in the year.
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure it was like 80% or something.
No, it was actually 63%.
63.
But he did have a lot of work. If you want to go to that game log, week 4.
100,
100 yards, 23 and a half. But that was a 42-14 game. That game, they had 4 rushing touchdowns. And he just inherited only one of them because they were just winning by so much. But even last game they played, Austin Eckler didn't play. And he had a bum ankle in a bad matchup. Also in a blowout, and he still hit 100 yards.
Right.
His pass catching upside is just not great, but he's got one of the safer floors to just get a ton of volume. So if he is a legit threat for 100 yards, which New Orleans for the last 8-10 weeks, we've been targeting most running backs against them.
Right.
His projection doesn't make a ton of sense to me today. And I think ownership wise, he's just a really good different spot. So I love Washington today. And it's really easy to get over the weight to all these guys.
Yeah, so right now on early only, he's showing 12.6%. And then on main, he is at...
I thought he was at 7 or 8%.
7.9.
Yeah. So right in
pretty low.
Pretty low for somebody that has the workload of a 20-touch upside guy. He would be a clear 5-box running back if they were at home.
Yeah.
But they're favored by, 5.5 today? In a dome, good weather, good matchup. That's why he's the thumbnail.
He's one of, yep.
One
And
of.
then I don't think the other guy is on this slate, is he? Yeah, the other's thumbnails here too. So we'll talk about Chuba in a second. Let me get rid of this grouping. Let me go back to our page so I can see because my computer decided to, go out on me. But Tua is our next quarterback, 6,100. They're playing against Houston. HN is a receiving threat, so we'll put him in there. He's the main guy if they're going to throw the ball from the running back position. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle.
He's
Wow,
at 57.
that's crazy.
He's kind of isolated by himself in the
Price
upper
wise.
5K range on this slate.
Yep, there's your
But
main guys right there.
yeah, again, Miami is very self-explanatory. We'll say Raheem Mostert is back.
Yep.
He has been having little to no impact on HN anyways. The HN thing, we've been targeting. He's probably our most thumbnail person
Yes.
on all of our videos so far, but there's a reason because he just consistently is hitting 20 points. But lately, he's been very, very inefficient running the football. Obviously, 2 yards a carry or less each of the last 2 games. But the receiving upside is why we've been playing him, getting the 7 target upside or 50 plus receiving yard upside. Also, receiving touchdowns. I think he has more receiving touchdowns than he does rushing, if I remember correctly.
5, 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6 of them.
So 6 and 4, he affects the game in multiple ways. 7-9 is very interesting. I don't know. I think he's the most exposed Miami player at 17%, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
A lot of ways to get different. So you can also stack if you wanted to go that route as well. They're all kind of hitting their stride at the right time, but Houston is actually worse on, over the top more so than they are, on the front 7. So it could be another inefficient day where he catches a screen for a score, gets 20 points. That's not going to hurt you, but getting that at 7-9, it's not necessarily going to just make sure that you cash either.
Right. Early only slate, you could probably get away with it, but I don't know that I'm as comfortable on a main slate with that.
This is probably the first week in a long time that I'm just okay fading HN, even though it's in a good total game
for sure. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have been playing better as of late. Tyreek Hill did have his most targeting last week, 14 targets, 10 for 115 and a touchdown. He also had a rushing attempt, and 31 points is the high on the year for him, I believe. Yeah, easily the high on the year. So,
and Jalen Waddle recently had a 160-yard game, I think, and he in that same game that Tyreek had 115 yards, he had 99 yards, which is almost at the bonus. But I think 3 of his last 4, he's really returned value, or 2 of the last. But yeah, that 30-point game for 144 and a score, and then 12 targets last week. That's what we were. Or a lot of people that invested in him were really wanting was just both of them getting all the targets. But Jonnu Smith has been the reason, and he's just been playing lights out. Maybe Arthur Smith was on when he was just hitting the ball more than Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, because look at those numbers: 31, 23, 24, even 13. I mean, that's still solid.
0 points in regulation.
It was crazy.
All of that came in overtime.
Yes. So 4 targets and 44 yards in overtime, and then the game-winning touchdown. Nuts.
Yeah, usually when you have tight ends that can have an 8 target upside game, like that's what you want to target and do. And like I mentioned previously, Houston, Jalen Petrie, their best secondary player, rivaling Derek Stingley at least. But yeah, he's not there. So a lot of ways, I don't know. Do you have a preferred way of doing a double with the Miami if you wanted to play a 2 line today?
I think a fun way, I think Tyreek is going to go in most people's lines. And I'm okay getting away from Tyreek in the way of like going Waddle and Jonnu to save some money and then also be different, because I think that's the way you can kind of get a little.
Yeah, different. I feel like the most common way to do it, or common person in a double for Tua would be Tyreek. But I mean, Tua on the early only is still only 7.5%, and Tyreek is at 10.5.
Okay,
so even ownership wise, you're not gonna be heavily duped by doing a Tyreek double with, say, Waddle because of value or something like that. So either way, we'll see how much Tua we get to today. But definitely really interesting spot for all these guys.
Yeah, there's and you know where the ball's going. That's the part that's nice about this team.
Odell's no longer on the team.
Yeah,
which no impact, but he was just kind of eating snaps from, low end guys to maybe get a target or 2 a game. So
yeah, throw Brees in there. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets because they are playing Jacksonville, and we just have to target Jacksonville at this point. It is what it is. Where's Brees? Braylon. That one.
54.
And then we're going to go grab the expensive guys.
expensive, not expensive,
Yeah.
Either way, the Jets are just in an interesting spot because, Aaron Rodgers, his first game in, I think, 3.5 years, where he had a 300-yard game last week in a losing effort against Miami. But we have just seen consecutive games where Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson are combining for 10 targets per
Right.
person. The thing that was scary for me was that obviously Brees Hall missed last week. A lot of people were on Braylon. And when we had the chalk of a Braylon, a Zach Charbonnet, and Isaac Garindo, and we ranked them 1, 2, 3 perfectly. We
Right.
were like, clearly it's Charbonnet,
Mhm.
clearly it's Garindo, and then it's Braylon Allen, and we were fine with that. A lot of people were on Braylon as the favorite, and he ended up busting because Isaiah Davis and him basically were 50-50 split. And so I was a little nervous because their prices as a result didn't really jump.
Yeah.
But then Brees Hall, even though he didn't really practice all week, he tried to play. And so that basically forces you to just cancel out the running backs. And if you're going to play this team at all, it's just going to be a double with the two best players that get the best or most opportunities.
So the other thing I wanted to say was Tyler Conklin is out for this game.
That's good to know.
So 79% of the snaps is going to go to somebody. Jeremy Ruckert is the main guy.
Mhm.
So if you wanted a $2,500 Jeremy Ruckert, I'm mad at you.
So funny though, because Evan Ingram also out for the year
Yeah.
on the other side of this game. So 2 minimum price tight ends from this slate that are projecting for 6 points. So both of them projecting over 2.4x value.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Saves a lot of money if you wanted to do that. Nobody's going to play Jeremy Ruckert, especially over Brendan Strange. So just saying, it's interesting. And then also Alan Lazard has returned to play after being on IR due to a chest injury, but he has not really had an impact since he's turned. He actually played, or last week was his only game back. He did play 78% of the snaps, but he had 1 target. And so
Right.
nobody's going to play him, but he's got a lot of volume opportunities before they traded for Devontae, where he was just sniping for touchdowns. He, at like the halfway point in the season, was leading the NFL in receiving touchdowns.
Yeah.
So you can't count him out at 4,300. So really, if I'm going to target this game at all, it's going to be the Jets receiving game. And I think there's ways to do that on this slate.
Do you have a lean between the Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson? Do you have a lean on those guys?
I would say Devontae.
Okay.
Garrett has been kind of a plus version of a Roma Dunze
Mhm.
with Aaron Rodgers in the sense that he's getting the targets, but they're just not. They don't have the chemistry that Devontae and Aaron Rodgers do. So,
For sure.
like Rome on the other side of this, he's had multiple 10 target games that he just gets 9 fantasy points, and it's just like, eh. So back-to-back weeks, I think Garrett Wilson's had 10 targets. He hit that 100-yard threshold once, but then the other game was 41. So he's got a lot lower of a floor. Obviously, he's got a 30-point game, a 21-point game in this sample, but he also has 3 games below 10.
Yeah.
So Devontae, I think, is the safest and has just as much upside, in my opinion.
Fair.
And they both kind of similar ownership wise. I think they're both 13. Yeah, they're 13.5%.
Okay. I grab Devontae's number so everybody can see him. Basically, consistently, sitting around 17 points. He did score 3 touchdowns in these games that it did pop off, but
4 of the 5 games has at least 11 targets. So he's at least playing for something, because he made the wrong decision going there because the grass is not always greener. And so if you're just going to force playing with your buddies, that's cool, but you're going to be in a bad situation where when the Jets move on from Aaron Rodgers this offseason, now you're stuck, because now you're in a bad situation again, just like you were with the Raiders. And then you're going to ask out again. And then who's going to take the chance on you when you just asked out a couple of times over the last 3 years?
Right. Going over to, so let me clear this and grab that. Where's last one's Carolina, right?
Damn right it is.
All right.
Let's go Bryce Young.
Bryce Young against Dallas. Cam is hoping that Dallas loses. So,
I'm also very happy because they very much prematurely benched Bryce Young. He went to a bad situation, and on top of that, multiple coaching changes, and then everybody was kind of banged up receiving wise, and he just had a rough start, especially as a rookie. And then this year, obviously, they started out pretty poorly, but then they benched him in like week 2, I think, or week 3, and obviously Andy Dalton played it and became serviceable. But you don't bench a second-year quarterback when your team you already know is not competing
right
4 wins and stuff like that. And so since that bye took place in week 11, they have been just lights out. Or actually, even week 10 when they upset the Giants in Germany, he played well and they came back and won that game. But they've been a touchdown dog every single week, and they're just covering the spread or almost winning. They lost on a walk-off field goal against Kansas City, lost in overtime on a walk-off field goal against Tampa Bay, and then had the go-ahead touchdown that Xavier Leggett could not hold on to,
Right.
which would have been the go-ahead touchdown that I don't know if they would have held on to win, but they put themselves in to where he's continuously putting them and converting on those either go-ahead or game-tying drives, which is good to see. His stats aren't sexy, but he's getting it done, and I'm very happy for him that he's having some success because that guarantees him another opportunity and another offseason to have a better situation next year.
Yeah, one of our pukes. But I will say, and this is something we've talked about before, but if you're going to lose games and you were trying to lose games, if you're going to tank, this is how you lose them.
They're
You know what I mean?
perfectly
The
right
right way. You're trying, you're working your ass off to, win some of these games. They did beat, 2 teams that are in the bottom 10 in New Orleans and the Giants and stuff like that. But these last few games are all good teams. And they had Philly on the ropes. KC won on a field goal to end the game. Like, these are games that,
and then they also
this is
beat
how you
New
do
Orleans.
it right here.
We didn't even mention that one as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he played fine. And again, stats aren't jumping off the page. But Dallas, obviously, Trevon Diggs is out for the year. And they've also been much more susceptible to quarterbacks in recent games. Even the game where they kind of handled and controlled the Giants, they never went away. And also, Drew Lock had a 30-yard rush touchdown. And I like Bryce Young's rushing upside more than I do a Drew Lock on a day-to-day situation. So very safe floor to me, where I know it's not jumping off from a fantasy perspective, but he's low owned and he has upside, I think, above 16 points, which is what's going to really return on a very low owned slate today for him. He's only, what's he, 3.5% on the early only.
Okay, that's nothing. He is 3.5 on. Let's see. I had main open. Let's see. He's very low. 1.9.
Yeah, Dusty saying Leggett wanted to show that they could win, but stuck to the tank. A true tank commander. I completely agree.
But he does have pass catchers. We'll get to the pass catcher wise. It's 10 targets, 11 targets, 5,400, 23 points, 22 points. I'm going to be honest. Adam Thielen's going in my line, even if I don't play Bryce Young, if I don't play a Dallas player.
I don't get
it's crazy.
The lack of ownership on him today. I know that Chuba is the most popular or second most popular, depending on the slate, just skill player today, which for good reason. We'll talk about that in a second. But Adam Thielen, back-to-back games over 10 targets. He had a couple sample size before he did get hurt. Or he actually got hurt in Andy Dalton's first game. When we had him as the puke, he had a touchdown at halftime, but then hurt himself. Deontay Johnson was the one that went off. But Deontay Johnson obviously no longer there. So he's inheriting all the targets that Deontay was consistently having with Andy when he was getting the high volume. So back-to-back games where he's averaging 100 yards, scoring touchdowns, 5,400 matchup.
Give me him. Come on. That's crazy. He was 1 yard short of 20. Yeah,
he's not going to be in 100% of our lines today, but he is so easy to get over the field to, and we're probably going to be 6-7x the field because he's only showing about 10%, and I want probably 3 lines with him because of how GP is.
And Xavier Leggett at 4,700, also getting targets, 8 targets. Dustin did mention him. He hasn't had the fantasy output, but it's because he's not catching the ball as much as he needs to. As you can see, only 25% and then 50% in the game against Tampa Bay. Those were good defenses. We're getting Dallas now. The opportunities are a little bit better. So I think that this is a very sneaky stack that is not getting any ownership.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, Jalen Coker is going to be back after missing 4 weeks with the injury.
Let me grab him.
Or 3 weeks, rather. They had a bye in week 11. But he was right before the bye, was getting north 70 or 80% of the snaps. Granted, that was without Adam Thielen.
Right.
But that really, to me, kind of eats just more into David Moore, who has been having a very safe floor, had 6 straight games, 80% of the snaps because of various receivers being out. I would expect that they're going to have Adam Thielen probably the second most snaps, but most opportunities as a receiver. And then Xavier Leggett, you got to just let him run around. because he has all the upside for you. And so a lot of ways to get different. The only thing is we have to talk about Chuba.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Chuba had 26 attempts last week. Like,
and 5 targets.
Inefficient at best. 3.5-ish yards per carry. But he's the only guy because now Jonathan Brooks retore his, at least ACL. I don't know what else.
Yeah, he
in
had
his
ACL
knee.
and MCL.
Golly, that's so sad.
Basically, he's going to miss another year because this happened later than the one in college. One in college happened around Thanksgiving, and he still missed a full year, basically.
All the way to week 11 or something.
Exactly. And he goes down non-contact. Nobody else. That happened in the first quarter. Nobody else had a snap at running back. Chuba Hubbard had 97% of the snaps, which was by far a season best. I don't expect him to have 100% of the snaps, but he's going to have 100% of the important opportunities in this offense.
Yeah, he's the guy. You have to play him today. 6,500 against Dallas's defense. Just
Dallas can't stop running back.
Plug him in your line. I do have a question, though, about this offense.
Yes.
If you were going to play Bryce Young, would you double Adam Thielen, Chuba, or would you try to go somewhere else?
It depends on if we're playing multiple Bryce lines. I don't necessarily want to.
Okay.
But if I'm playing one Bryce line, I think I just want to, by default, get the best options in this offense, which is Chuba and Adam Thielen. You're going to be different enough because you're playing Bryce Young.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's build a line for early.
And on top of that, just as a really quick thing, with a bring back in this game, which we're not going to force a ton of bringbacks today because it is such a large slate. On this one, it's only a 7-gamer for the early only. But that is a good game to bring back because of value. But I think the two most popular values or bringbacks in the game would be Rico Dowdle because he's hitting his stride at the right time. On top of that, we've been targeting running backs all year against Carolina. And then also CeeDee Lamb, who's pretty reasonably priced at 73. Jake Ferguson, because he was showing great value, but then 3 tight ends, 2,600 and below, all opened up because of Stone Smart, Brendan Strange, and now Jeremy Ruckert. So I think he's going to be lower owned than I even thought he would be. And so I'm showing Jake Ferguson right now on the early only slate with only 8%.
That's pretty low, especially against Carolina. Like, Carolina has been terrible against tight ends.
And this is a slate, obviously.
Go ahead. I sneezed.
Obviously, we're going to go with some Trey McBride up top, but there's really, other than Jonnu Smith and Trey McBride, nobody really excites us up top at tight end. And so even on this slate, neither of those guys are on. I'm sorry. Actually, Jonnu Smith is on this slate, but only one tight end is above 10% owned, which is Travis Kelce in the worst weather environment, and also back-to-back kind of Dudley games based on how expensive he's been. So I can't fault you for wanting Travis Kelce, but I'd rather just be cheap because there's so many cheap options today.
Fair.
Didn't even mention Mark Andrews, but he's just been returning value, and he's just in a shitty game script environment potentially, but he's only 4,100. His price just is not going up. But anyways, yeah, we'll get to our building our lines, then we'll get into the afternoon slate.
Which quarterback do you want to start with?
Let's start with the Jaden Daniels.
Okay, so go high, and then go low.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to stack him? Obviously, Terry is probably first option.
In this line, that's a good question with them. Do you want to do just pick out 2 receivers because there's not a lot of great receivers that we love up top today? Or do you want to fill one of our favorite running backs that is lower owned than he should be? Terry has to be in the line.
Let's go
who's that
receiver.
Second? Okay, so
get 3,100 because that makes everything easier.
That's fun.
Why not, right?
Okay.
Then Luke McCaffrey at the same price is going to go off. But that's not the point. Then we can go get some running backs. We can put the thumbnails in if you want. On both sides.
Triple stack. Oh, the first thumbnail of Chase Brown.
Other thumbnail.
Throw in Chase Brown.
Because he is in a situation where he's going crazy, man. Like, it is what he's getting.
All the
8 targets, guys. 65 yards. He doesn't need efficient running the ball because he's just going to get all the volume.
He's had at least 5 receptions and 3 of the 5.
It's just
all the targets,
man.
4 of the 5. Sorry, selling him short, but yeah, he's basically in every game since Zach Moss went out. He's had 19 fantasy points, and even though it's not based on a season-long perspective a great matchup, we just saw Brian Robinson on a bum ankle go for 100 yards against them. So he's just going to be one of the safest plays on the entire slate. Yeah, let's do him and Mr. Chuba.
Okay. Do we want a Dallas player since Fergie's so cheap? Or
Let's throw in Fergie, and then if we need some salary, we can go down.
Well, we get some salary right here. What do you want?
So the most popular defense
Look at that
on the
price.
early only is the Jets at 3,000.
Okay.
Reasonable because it's
Yep.
against Mac Jones. The second is actually Cleveland down at 2,200. They're at home. Bad weather game against an offense that's just not really
I like
having
that
a bunch
lot.
of points. So that was my preference, especially based on ownership. But those are the two most popular.
I feel like I can save so much money. Why? I mean, the Giants are 2,100. That is.
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody that low. I don't think I have ever seen a single defense that low.
Yeah,
I
it's pretty low.
can't believe that. That's crazy.
They honestly deserve to be 1,500. And
I
I
was-
still wouldn't play them.
That's what I was gonna say. They could be worse. We do have a lot of
right.
money though.
Yeah, we do.
We can get a fun running back. We can get. Dang, I can't really justify getting Adam Thielen in this line.
I mean, I'm not against it. But again, receiver is not something that I'm as excited about today.
Right.
With early only games, because I don't know if we're gonna play 3 early only lines, but we'll probably play 1 or 2 because there's a great high option and a couple of low options. With the ones that we're not playing jet stacks, do you still want like a Devontae Adams or a Tyreek Hill? We talked about Tua as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and I lean Devontae like you. So
okay, so let's go Devontae.
And then we'll have 56.
56.
100 short.
Who are you looking for?
Waddle.
Oh, you were gonna double without a stack on him
for Miami.
Mm-hmm. We're playing with the Jaden. Oh, I'm so sorry.
I was like,
yeah,
what? Yeah. I would have gone.
Tyreek was on my mind.
No, because we didn't go up.
Okay.
I was thinking Waddle could fit there.
Hmm.
Also go down at tight end if we need to because it's free. $1,300 extra would give us 69. We could have gone Tyreek and then Brian.
Yeah,
that would have been trouble. Rico.
I think it's going to be easier and funner to build with a
cheap.
or a. But I want to finish this out just to see what the look would be like. So,
well, we're sitting here at this price point. I don't love any of the players that are in this range. Is the problem?
Also, like today, I don't think I'm playing Terry without Jaden Daniels as a standalone because I just think if I want one Washington player, I'm going to put in Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I agree.
So he's also not going to be in that line, which is going to make things easier as well.
What about doing which $2,500 tight end?
Strange would be my, and then on top of that, being a correlated bring back to Devontae makes sense.
Jacksonville player. That's the wrong one. Oh my gosh,
that's the wrong one.
There's just there you are.
There you are.
All right. So then 6,900 would be where we're at. We could also go away from Devontae. T. Higgins is actually showing up as one of the highest values on the slate at 15.69 total fantasy points. So he's not. I'm not against playing a Cincinnati player. I don't want to put him in the same line as Chase Brown.
If you don't think the Giants will lose as bad as it seems like it might, Malik Neighbors is in a great spot,
right?
But that's
all
I can really say about that.
What if I went up from here and went to Tyreek at 74 and then played any of the running backs that we want? Rico. We could play Isaiah Pacheco. Both of those guys are options in my opinion. You're more confident in Rico?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, then we'll throw Rico in, and then that's our first line.
Okay.
Washington stack. No New Orleans players because it's tough over there, man.
Yeah, we're gonna play three early onlys.
Yeah,
because I wanted to build right now, so we're gonna do that next.
Okay,
that's gonna save $1,400 just doing that.
Bang.
And then we're not playing Terry. We're gonna double with probably. Do you prefer Tyreek and Jaden or Jonnu, or what do you want to do with that?
Let's play Jalen.
Okay. All right.
Houston.
This is what I want to do. I want to go expensive running backs or dominant running backs. So Joe Mixon, Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard are my 3 I want to force and see what we have left after that, because I know we're going cheap defense and we have a lot of cheap tight ends to play. Ooh. Okay, here we go.
Well,
A little relief right there.
Diami
We put Diami in,
is an
and that's
option.
perfectly enough for a Jake Ferguson.
We could also, well, yeah, that's true. I was gonna say we could do that, or we could play a cheap
Who's a 4,000 receiver that stands out to you?
4,000 receiver.
I'm on the wrong thing.
Xavier the Get.
Can we afford him though? I don't think we can afford him. That would be 2,400 left. So it's got to be 46 or less.
Oh,
Rashad Bateman.
okay. Yeah.
As a only guy in.
Zard we talked about. I'd rather play just go down to $3,100.
Yeah,
Diami.
I think that's my preference.
Shove Diami in the lineup and hope he's the best 25 cheap guy for them. And then yeah, Fergie. That makes a lot of sense to me. I like that line a lot.
That's fine.
You get this stack. You get the Houston, and then you get your favorite players for
I think
Washington.
I think Mixon is my favorite running back from Houston play today in general.
Okay.
On the early only, he's showing 23%, but I think he's going to kind of get lost in the ownership game and the main slate. Let me just have both of them side by side so I don't have to keep on clicking the tab.
Yeah.
Main slate wise, he is projected less than 15% owned.
Okay.
So, yeah, that
seems reasonable for sure.
He's the first $5 running back up top.
Yeah, price wise for sure. So yeah, that's a good build. And then I do want to do a Bryce Young build real quick. I know we're gonna do a lot on the early only, but
so if we did 3, you would prefer a Carolina double instead of a Jets double? Just asking. Yes. Okay. All right. Yes, that's fine. Perfect. So, do you agree with my sentiment of just putting in the top 2?
Yeah,
options.
That's what I want to do.
Perfect.
54. Okay. Oh, that's the wrong guy.
No.
Wrong 54.
We were right on him this year, though.
Yeah, we were. Dallas player. Which one?
We'll put in Cleveland's defense, and then again, I think it's Ferguson. We need to put Brian Robinson in this line because we haven't played him in the other 2.
Okay.
So, and somehow we're still triple the field of him, only playing him 1 out of 3 times, which is awesome.
Is what it is.
Let's put in Fergie for now, and then let's live in the mid range. Do you want to put Chase Brown in this line?
Yeah, we're gonna play 3 running backs.
Okay.
Because I don't like the receivers.
That's fine. All right.
It could be him. It could be someone else.
It's a pretty healthy amount left.
One guy we haven't talked about is Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers is popping off, and he's a really good pick. When they're up, they don't throw him the ball. So it's one of those things.
He's had multiple games where he's had 100 yards in the first half, and then they just don't target him, even in a healthy game in the second half.
Yep. Because they're up by 31 points. So you just don't know what to do. But he is one of the best plays truly on the slate. I just don't know if I want to get to him. I'm okay with going up to Tyreek though. Here.
Okay, put in Tyreek.
And then I think that actually, I guess Zay would be the guy that it leaves you.
Yeah.
Or
go ahead.
Well, we were going to ask about Chase Brown, right?
Well, did we played him in the last line, right? So we're 2 out of 3. Is he a 3 out of 3 on an early only for you?
I think so.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yes. But I think if you took him out, he would make things easier. Because then you could play a cheaper running back.
Well, what I was going to say was put him in Rico. Or no. I guess it would be Pacheco on this.
But that would give you Tyreek. Or it would give you Terry.
I think I prefer Devontae as a standalone.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with you.
So my question is, would you rather have Ferguson and Pacheco or Chase Brown and Britton Strange?
Chase Brown.
Then let's ride with that then.
But it doesn't have to be Devontae at that point too.
I think that just opens up $100 more. I don't think it really opens up anything that we're wanting to.
Right. Or Ruckert. We play Ruckert. Just saying. We could play any of those guys. Like if you wanted to play a cheap guy and you're like, I think Ruckert's going to get the most points out of the $2,500 guys.
He will be mad at you. But
running back. All the way back up.
Chase Brown.
And then 7,300. That's sad. Oh, we already have Tyreek. Oh, no.
We don't have a Dallas bring back. So CD at 73 is.
Yeah, you could always throw him in there. CD is not a bad play ever. Last week
I don't
he
get
was
his
the
prop
main
line
play.
right now. His receiving prop is at 60.5 receiving yards right now, and he's projected for over 16 fantasy points. So I don't know how that math is mathing, but up top, he's the only guy above. Let me filter this real quick. He's the only guy above 7,000, or I guess there's a couple below 10%, but he's at 8.8%. So pretty reasonable. He's the lowest owned Cowboy of the trio that I mentioned, actually. So because I guess there's just ownership is just being divvied out between everybody on that side, but
There you go.
what have you. Yeah, don't mind it.
Um,
If price doesn't matter, CD Lamb versus Devontae, who would you pick? Yeah.
yeah,
That's a tough one, though.
yes, it is, but it's CD.
So it would be
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
All
that
right.
would be where I would go.
Well, that's a fun slate.
Yeah,
Very
that
fun
is
slate.
very fun.
All right, now we'll get to the one that has all the fireworks in it because basically I want to play all four of the 5 games and really easy to decipher between. So let's do it.
Got to get it to.
And again, fantasy playoffs are starting, best ball playoffs are starting. If you need last guys in, start sending questions
Any
or have
questions?
any kind of lineup questions, please let us know and we'll give you our thoughts.
Plus, if y'all haven't liked the stream, please go like the stream. That helps us a lot. Get our name out there and get people to hopefully watch this, ask some more questions. Hopefully, help us make these lines as good as possible.
We just hit 200 subs. Now we're on the road to 300. So
yeah, absolutely. And we of course are doing our contest for Bowl Mania right now. That just started yesterday, so that's a lot of fun. It's super exciting. Hopefully, y'all got in there.
Yeah, I went 1-1 yesterday, but my least confident pick was the loss. So
same.
I'm not entirely mad at that.
Where was your South Alabama pick?
I think it was in the 20s.
So I had it at 30. So okay. I'm probably a little bit ahead of you. But yeah, that I felt pretty confident about it until everybody decided to sit.
Right.
Like running back sat, their best receiver, and Gio Lopez. That was cool.
Yeah, Dusty, I think, is one of the top people because he's 2-0 because he's just elite at picking mid-major.
and FCS, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get it going. Josh Allen is the most expensive player on the slate, and he is our first quarterback because he had 50 points last week. I don't know what to do. Like,
yeah,
had the best fantasy game of all time, and we did not play enough of him, which was so awesome. Love to see that. And then he's got some receivers. We're going to talk about them, especially we're going to talk about prize picks with Amari Cooper, which is an insane line right now. I don't know which 46.5 or 3.5.
Yeah, 46.5 receiving yards. You got 9.5 fantasy points. You got 5.5 targets. You got 3.5 receptions.
Pick one.
I like all of those.
Pick one.
Keon Coleman's back today, which is probably why it's a little reduced, but it is 8 points higher than the next highest total. And last week we saw the Buffalo Bills have 86 combined points with the Rams. So I expect a 34-31 minimum kind of game.
Right.
And I would be shocked if it was any different than that. So how do you get there without doing that? Keon has been very spotty with targets anyways. This year he has only 100-yard game, I think. Couple of standalone touchdown games where he has one catch.
That's who he was in college, guys. So this is not surprising.
Yeah,
all right,
it's not. The only question mark is Dalton Kincaid is a true game time decision.
Yeah.
But I still probably prefer to get away because his targets have not been there like we anticipated they would. And other than he had a 10 target game, the game that he got hurt against Indy, he got hurt on a wide open wheel route that Josh Allen missed him, and he just landed on his knee. And unfortunately, had to miss the last couple of weeks because
of it. Whole thing was so sad.
Yeah, basically, Josh Allen is why he sucks.
We had him in that game. Yeah. It was so sad because we thought we had a free touchdown basically, and then we
just did not work. But
then we have an injured guy.
But with Detroit so against the run, yeah, you can keep on.
I was gonna pull up Josh Allen just off his greatness.
Yeah,
look at this. This is bullshit.
He's the current MVP favorite for a reason. For the first half of the year, he really wasn't hitting his fantasy ceiling like we had seen, but in the last 3 weeks, he has. Obviously, against one of the top scoring defenses in Kansas City, he had 25 fantasy points, and he had 28 against San Francisco in the snow,
where they beat him by 25.
Where he had a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown. And then last week against the Rams, he was the first player ever to have 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns in a regular season game. Most fantasy points by a quarterback of all time was last week against the Rams, and I'm sad that we didn't invest in him at all. But it is what it is. Now, today's a new day.
Yeah.
So
Got to get some in this game.
the only thing that's
especially.
frustrating though is you just don't know who's going off. But Detroit has been susceptible to receivers and tough games, and in games that they are close, we've seen receivers pop off. We saw Christian Watson, who was our favorite play last week,
Right.
or tournament play at least, go off for 100 yards. That not a lot of people were on. So they're susceptible to big plays, and so it just kind of depends on how you want to do the double. But if Josh Allen hits 30 points, but your receivers don't work out amazingly, I think you'll still be in good shape.
Yeah, because he is Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
He will probably get a rushing touchdown. He has had 4 straight games of them, so I don't see why he wouldn't. Khalil Shakur, like Cam talked about, he's the best option, just floor on this team. He does have upside, but he's not hitting 100 yards very often. He's not getting touchdowns very often.
He had
has 3 touchdowns.
He had a 50-yard touchdown last week. That's what really put him over. But other than, I mean, he just consistently has 7 to 9 targets mostly, and on occasion he'll have more than that. But yeah, he's double-digit floor. Ceiling wise, kind of debatable how much you want to invest in him. But yeah, I think if I'm doing a Josh Allen double, he's probably going to be in it.
Right, fair. And then the next guy we talked about, Amari Cooper. Let's pull up his numbers so you can hit 14 targets.
He finally had a usage game, first time since being over here. He's also, when he did get traded, he did pop up with the wrist injury where he missed a couple games. And then on top of that, really extremely bad game scripts. If you look at this 5-game sample size, 34-10, 31-10, 35-10s in there. The 30-21 was a just kind of weird statistical game. Curtis Samuel had a ton of points. That's who we were actually on that week in particular. And then last week, he just wasn't in sync, but 6 for 95 is really solid. So if you're going to have the usage that you do, that's somebody that you really want to invest in.
And he's the most talented wide receiver in the room. So that's always good too.
Right.
That helps with getting the ball.
I mean, he hasn't played a ton of snaps with Buffalo since he became a Bill. But that was, for the record, a season high in terms of snap share at 53%. He's just still working his way back from injury, but getting 14 targets on only 53% of the snaps is really, really solid usage.
I will also say, Keon Coleman coming back, I don't know that actually eats into what he's doing, other than I think it'll bring the snap share down because Matt Collins is on the field to block. That's why he's there. He's not there to catch the ball. He's there to block. And so when Amari's on the field, he's going to be running the routes, and I would expect his route participation to be very high, while Mac is going to be the guy that.
Well, I mean, also interestingly enough, Keon Coleman, when he last played, Khalil Shakir was hovering around 55% of the snaps, and since then he's been about 70. So interestingly, I don't consider those two receivers as ones that would be interchangeable, but that's how they're kind of using them at the moment.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know Shakira plays out of the slot most of the time. Going to our next stack, we're going to go to the other side of this game. Jared Goff, if he is going to be good, he might break the slate. And that's the thing about this Detroit team is hard to pick because they have so many good plays. Look at all these guys. I can't tell you who's going to be the best guy today because there's projections and stuff, but Amon-Ra could go for 30 points. Jahmyr Gibbs could go for 30 points, and David Montgomery could go for 3 touchdowns, and it wouldn't surprise me in any way because they are such a high talented offense.
And Jamison Williams can go for 150 yards
on one catch.
And Sam Laporta can have 2 touchdowns on 6 yards.
Yeah.
We've seen literally all kinds of ways that they've scored points, but the thing that's been safe every week in and week out is that they are getting to 30 points every single week. So that's 3 to 4 touchdowns a week. And really, the most popular way we're going to build, if they do invest in this game, is probably going to be the Buffalo passing game.
Right.
Bring back with the Detroit running game. Obviously, with Detroit now being flipped to the favorite, that kind of more adheres to that game script. But Jahmyr is probably, we've been frustrated because we haven't seen boom games, but he's been very safe as a floor. Obviously, 12 touchdowns last week, had a receiving touchdown finally, but he hasn't had the receiving usage that we've wanted.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's been just consistently getting important touches, and he's now rivaling. It's not a guarantee that when they're inside the 5, just David Montgomery is coming in anymore, or Jamal Williams, replacing DeAndre Swift, kind of that thing anymore. It's more so who's just finishing the drive, and they're going to stay with that guy.
Feels like Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt.
Exactly.
That when they played in Cleveland together, one of them ran the ball all the way down, and then someone else came in when they got tired. And So Jahmyr Gibbs is in play. He is actually not my favorite option at running back, though. I actually like Montgomery because normally it's the other way around. I don't know where you're at, which side you're on.
I was actually on the Jameer
Oh,
side
of
today.
course
So
you are.
last time we did this, we were on opposite. So that's gonna be fun. If how when we end up playing Josh Allen Bills today, but David was a bad beat last week because he just didn't have any carries in the second half, essentially.
Right.
And his first 4 touches were receptions in the second half. And it's just like that was the week picking a rushing prop and a good matchup, and you're just not getting the rushing volume, is what it is. But what is guaranteed is he gets you 15 points every game,
Yes.
which is fun to think about. The only problem is because they split workload so much, I don't think he's had a 100-yard game in a long time if you want to scroll through his game log. Yeah, since week 3.
Hmm.
So he's only had 100-yard game, and his style of running back that's where his ceiling is.
Right.
But he's been getting his floor regardless. On top of that,
Well,
having 3
the
targets every
targets.
single week as well.
I just didn't expect the targets out of this guy. He's a 7,000. I mean, there's a $500 difference. If you wanted to go up and find a way to get to Jahmyr, I'm not against it. Both guys are always in play. Then talking about Amon Ra, real quick, because we're going to be attacking the running game more. He has actually had a down game set of games in 3 in a row, but he did have 11 for 161 and 2 touchdowns 4 weeks ago against Jacksonville. This is a little bit of a different game, but if you think that the passing game is going to be going, it's going through Amon Ra.
Well, yeah, the difference is with this year, he just isn't getting the volume anymore, but a lot of that has to do with them just blowing out teams. So
Yeah.
the same thing I said about Buffalo, 52-6, 24-6. There's even games below the Houston game where they were getting blown out and stuff. 52-14. Green Bay was convincing. And so a lot of games where it just doesn't really convert to a bunch of targets, but he was catching touchdowns. But in the recent 3 weeks when he's had 13 points or less in 3 straight, he's not getting touchdowns, only 7 targets a game. So his floor is not there. He's not an over the top guy.
Right.
So he gets to that 100-yard bonus through targets. Obviously, you see in Jacksonville where he catches all 11 and then has the 161. So I was really surprised at his ownership at the start of the week, but now he is the most popular Detroit Lion. So now it's like, okay, now we can fade him.
Perfect.
Even though it is a season low in terms of price point. Obviously, the 7,600, he was on the Thursday slate. So main slate, it's the cheapest he's been all year. So it makes sense. You have to get a Detroit play if you're going to do a Buffalo stack.
Right.
But I think I would attack the running game, kind of similar to how the field's going.
I'd also rather attack Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
600. Targets are there, but he only needs a certain amount of target. Actually, 3, 4, 5 targets, and he could be a good play because he does have upside of 64 yards. That happened pretty often. 70 when earlier in the year he had 52, 50, 70, 37. Big plays are what make Jamison Williams who he is. And so I think that the price and the fact that he hasn't scored a touchdown make him a good option at 5,600. So
for what it's worth, though, I mean, I just kind of want to read a little bit of the box score for the Rams side of things last week because Puka Nacua 12 for 162 in the score, and on top of that had a rushing touchdown and 5 rush attempts. Cooper Kupp had 5 for 92 in the score, and Stafford went for 320 against Buffalo. So it's not like this secondary just is not able to or able to shut down a passing attack. Really, every time they've played an elite team like Baltimore or something like that, they've really just been bad on both sides, or not both sides, but both areas on defense. So really giving up 30 points, I have no idea how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. So just pick your stand kind of thing. And it's really easy to get overweight to guys like a Jamison Williams or a Sam Laporta, but you really have to take the stands where we talked about with and Montgomery, really.
I mean, Laporta's been okay. He's not my favorite play.
He's finally having an okay season over the last month, but he was just really bad for 2 months.
I mean, this best game of the year, 15.6, along with this one. This 15.6 was through 6 yards on 2 touchdowns. Like, he has to score to be viable. And I'm actually just going to be like, okay, he's not scoring today. Give me Jamison Williams. Give me Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I'd rather have.
And really, there's only 2 tight ends on the slate that I want, and we'll talk about them as standalone plays more so than anything.
Perfect. Then we'll go to the last quarterback on our board here. Oh, let me scroll. Justin Herbert. he is going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they
Mhm.
have the worst secondary in football right now against the pass.
And
So,
Antoine Woodfield is now out multiple weeks due to
Mhm.
injury, so it just makes things even worse because
yeah,
he is so good at football.
where I guess where's the cheap one? There you are,
Yeah.
hi buddy.
And again, I brought this up on the first look show that Kamani Vidal actually outsnapped Gus Edwards to start the year, or not to start the year. Last week, in particular, had 53% of the snaps. He had multiple catches and runs called back due to penalties, so that he didn't have a sexy game. But again, being a home favorite, the Chargers, even though they haven't really had a success since J.K. went down, they still like to run the football in games that really are solid environments. And so this one is going to be the highest total of any of the games so far they've played in that sample. And so Gus Edwards is a 0 in the passing game. So is Hassan Haskins.
Yeah, Hassan Haskins. He had
So
one snap.
yeah, he had
last
one
game.
snap because his first opportunity without J.K. Dobbins, he fumbled and lost it, and that's why they were playing from behind for against Atlanta. Gus Edwards is going to vulture any kind of touchdowns, which is kind of frustrating. But when Kamani Vidal is only 4,800, nobody is playing him right now.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up ownership on the afternoon slate, which is only 5 games. Kamani is 3% owned.
Okay.
So that's just kind of how I view things. If I'm doing a Justin Herbert stack, probably not going to go that route. I'm probably going to go a receiver and Stone Smart because Stone Smart starting for Will Dissly. Obviously, Dissly went out with the injury last showdown against the Chiefs, but he 3 for 54, and he's had big plays on all of them. It wasn't just like safe and catch and run. It was like going up and getting.
Yeah, he's a stud,
which is awesome to see because that's what inherits goal line or end zone or red zone opportunities. So 2,600, he's going to be a popular play today because of the volume. But they're on top of that, on top of Will Dissly being out, Hayden Hurst a couple weeks ago put on IR. So there's really no one else at tight end that's competing for snaps, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, with this situation, just think Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark Andrews goes out. You want to play Isaiah Likely?
Yeah.
Stone Smart is the same type of player. He's not a good blocker. He is there to catch the ball.
Exactly. Tucker Fisk is the guy.
Fisk is the blocker.
Exactly.
Fullback style.
And last week, Will Dissly got hurt later in the game, so he played not later, but kind of in the third quarter, I think is when it was. But he had 40% of the snaps overall. Stone Smart had 37%, which was basically everything after Will Dissly. And then Tucker Fisk, when they were running the football, he was in
the whole time, brother.
He had one target and he got upended.
Hey,
as soon as
he was my tournament play because he was basically free and you could get hopefully
Stone
one
Smart
target.
Was free too, but he just
we didn't know
before that
Will Dissly was going to be
exactly,
out.
Exactly. He didn't have more than 7 snaps in a single game the entire season, but now he's obviously going to.
Right. So he'll be a guy we talk about. Then wide receiver wise, you can pick your favorite wide receiver. Ladd McConkey is
the guy. If he plays,
in.
You got to play. It sounded optimistic that he is going to play, but he still is going to go through a pregame workout. He is somebody I'm probably not going to risk on the main slate.
Right.
Because there's a lot of guys in the 6K range I like, and you have to force it. And there's not any backups in the afternoon slate at 6K really that I love as like okay, if he doesn't play, then I'm gonna drop there
for sure.
But if he doesn't play, my favorite is Josh Palmer, who had a ton of opportunities. Week had 9 targets for 78, could have had more, but he was missed targeted on a couple of dig routes and slant routes. Would have put him over 100. We've been waiting for a boom game, and not a boom game, but boom opportunity. Which is he was the number 1 receiver, but Quinn Johnston was the guy which you were on the side of, and he ended up outscoring him fantasy wise. Touchdown, 548. He's really a big play guy that drops a lot of passes and is very scary to invest in. But both of them being kind of basically the same price. If you wanted the double receiver route, what I would do is just force Quentin Johnston in and Ladd McConkey, and then make your decision later based on how Ladd plays. Because I don't think I want to play Josh Palmer if Ladd plays, but if he doesn't, then obviously I want to go down to
put Josh Palmer in for sure. And Stone Smart is definitely an option. If Ladd McConkey's out, like these are the 3 guys.
Exactly.
And that's it. Like they don't really have another.
Last week, Josh Palmer played 87, and this was without Ladd McConkey in the game. Josh Palmer played 87%. Quinn Johnston played 80, and then Rager, Darius Davis, and DJ Chark all were between 25 and 37%.
Okay.
So they split the wide receiver 3 role. They don't play wide receiver 3 a ton anyways, because they like their 2 tight end sets, and running the football.
which I agree with. I
Exactly.
get it.
It's a great way to they scheme so well, and that's why they're going above expectation on everybody. But Justin Herbert, what does he got to do to get over $6,000? He has rushing upside now. He did get what I would call dead legged.
Yeah.
Kind of hit in the thigh and was down for a little bit, but I don't expect that to really affect him going forward because it didn't look like it was on his knee. It was on really the thigh or the hamstring part of his leg. But yeah, his floor has been opened up because of his rushing upside. He hasn't had the passing touchdowns. Obviously, he's got 14 touchdowns in 13 games. Not impressive, but he's got one interception, which is very impressive. So this one, he's no longer in the value pool because he was at 56 or below for a long time. Actually, this is the most he's been probably since early October, if I had to guess. Yeah, all the way, or it's his most expensive of the year.
At
So,
5,900.
but at the same time, it's the best matchup of the year that he's had. So, and they're at home. All the good things are factoring in. The only thing that's kind of uncomfortable is just lad status because he's battling multiple things, a
Right.
knee and a shoulder. So, either of those are high injury risk based on landing on it. He's probably done for the day, or knee wise, if he just can't have the burst, then it's going to be frustrating to invest in. But otherwise, like, it's a great game environment. I like the Chargers as a whole today. We'll just kind of see how we divvy up our ownership.
Got to attack Tampa Bay. That's the thing. And you can always find a guy to bring back for Tampa Bay.
Right.
You can always find either a cheap wide receiver, a running back, one of two, or you can go Mike Evans if you just want to get the best player on their team. Let's build a line.
Let's do it.
Josh Allen.
Yeah,
let's see if we can make the Josh Allen line.
Throw in Amari and Khalil.
I want to say we're gonna have to put a Detroit guy. Stone Smart's going in this line for price.
Open up value.
So 26 defense.
What's also interesting is that all of the running backs that we love today are all in the first set of games.
Yeah.
So there's running backs in solid spots today. We mentioned James Conner as a play in our first look. I'm not playing any James Conner today unless I have to.
Right.
Which this is a slate where if I can afford him, he's in a solid spot. $5 running back today. I don't know if we can get to him in this line actually. So we'll see. If we have to open up value, we can. Let's go to defense to try to open up a little bit more. Right now, Philly is probably my favorite defense against Pittsburgh, and what I think is the game to target a low-scoring game. And on top of that, Pittsburgh looks like a very inefficient offense without George Pickens in.
Yes.
So I would expect them to possibly be under 14-point threshold, which is what I talked about. If I like that, I love investing in those defenses. So
the only other defense willing to play is maybe New England because Arizona has been meh recently.
Yeah, the three highest owned, basically the three that are pulling all the ownership is Denver at 32 against Indy.
Fair enough.
Very fair because they have been scoring a ton. They're the number one defense this year.
Yeah.
Points per game and overall wise. And then Arizona is the second, which I'm not touching Arizona defense today.
Okay, let's go to the Eagles.
All right.
Get some running backs. We got to pick a running back.
We got to pick one in Detroit. So what do you want to do?
Well, I mean, I really don't care. Let's put Gibbs in and then go down if we have to. How about that?
Right. That's fine.
Top running backs otherwise on this slate. Who do you like?
So I mentioned James Conner, and really, I don't want James Cook.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with Jonathan Taylor, but I'm not in love with it. Bucky, I don't want to play. Rashad White, I guess I'm fine with on the afternoon slate, but I'm not going to play him in the main since Bucky is playing. Don't want Najee. I'm fine with Kamani. That's kind of basically, do you want the value or do you want to go up top?
Well, I mean, the best play on the slate is probably Saquon just for pure points, but I just can't get there. Yeah. James Conner's not terrible. He's a $5-boxer.
Yeah. Let's put in James Conner and see if we can afford anything else.
$5 running back coming in.
And then receiver wise, we got 5,100 left.
Look at Marvin Harrison. 5,500 for Marvin Harrison. Hi,
I mean, people love Kyler Murray today, and then also Marvin Harrison on an update, his fantasy point projection has actually gone up. So
okay,
for what it's worth,
I have a question.
Okay.
Do we expect for Lad McConkey to play?
My gut says yes.
Okay. Just wondering because it's
That makes
really
things so much
easy to
easy.
put Josh Palmer in if he's
Exactly.
out. Cortland Sutton's been great this year. He's 6,600. Jamison Williams could have been a better play than Jahmyr Gibbs, maybe, but we just don't have any more running backs.
Let's put in Sutton and see if there's anything down low that we like.
37.
The highest value on the slate is actually Keishawn Butte.
He's 37.
He's 35 actually,
35.
but we can afford it. For what it's worth,
Yeah.
snap wise, the reason why he's projected so well, he literally played everything but one snap last week. He's been playing north of 90 for the last 5 games. He's had at least 96% of the snaps.
Mhm.
So he's on the field every single time. It's just, is he going to get the 5 targets that you hope for? Jalen Polk has gone down 4 straight weeks with snaps. He was down to 28% last time they played in week 13. Obviously had a bye last week. Kendrick Bourne has
That's
been
what I was
going
going to
up.
ask. Yeah. Okay.
He got not a season high, but basically trended back up to 64%. Demario Douglas has been kind of all over the place this year, but his volume has kind of dipped below
Right.
what we were seeing consistently before Bourne was back. So
I would rather play Kendrick Bourne
okay.
than Keishawn Boutte.
Well, considering that Keishawn's showing us the highest value and he's showing 11.7%, whereas Butte is, I'm sorry, Bourne is showing at 9.4%, so less owned. They're basically both 8.5 projected. Bourne has been the one getting in targets.
Consistency is my biggest thing.
Yeah, he's had at least 6 fantasy points, where Butte has had a couple games where he's just like, he played every snap but only had 2 targets.
I know. So I'm more comfortable. And let me actually, I'm pulling red zone targets real quick just to see.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Butte had 1. Douglas had 2. Bourne had none this last week.
Okay.
He's actually, so basically in the last 3 weeks, they both had 1. So nothing that helps that much.
Okay.
They don't get in the red zone that often. That's part of the problem. Okay. Hunter Henry actually has the most targets from the red zone.
So here's my question. Exit out real quick.
Is there a tight end?
If we 18, okay, I have an idea.
Okay.
Instead of going down that low, what if instead of James Conner, we put in Kamani, and then we had enough for Marvin Harrison?
Yeah. Not against that. Devontae Smith is also down here at 5,500. What in the? Oh yeah, no. I think Marvin's fine. I think it's a good play here. Today's the day, yes, sir. The Gale is here to hang out.
Let's go.
We are with you. Is it Marvin Harrison Day? Is the real question, because he has been so inconsistent. But when he has been good, I think Kyler hates him, or the scheme hates him.
So is my last question before we build another line is there a way, because if price didn't matter, I would prefer Trey McBride, even in a double tight end build. Is there anybody you're willing to go down from in this line?
It would be Cortland, but
no. Organically, it's David Montgomery instead of Jahmyr Gibbs, if you wanted to do
right. That. We did talk about that earlier.
So you actually prefer David today. So David plus McBride, or Gibbs plus Harrison.
I think McBride is so much safer.
Yeah,
McBride is so much safer.
I think so.
And I think that I'm happy they're the same price.
Still no receiving touchdowns on the year, but he is getting,
look at this. Look at these numbers.
At the targets.
It's freaking crazy. 14,
last
12,
3 games,
15.
he's had 41 targets, 0 touchdowns. But yeah, I don't understand the lack of want, but he is projecting really strongly today. And I really wanted to get to him. So I was trying to see if there was a way to do a McBride and Allen line, because if we're not playing Allen as a line, he's going to be
in, all of them.
And almost. We're probably going to play Stone Smart again.
I was going to say double tight end is going to be a thing that I don't think it automatically gets you different, but at the same time, they're by far the best plays. So it doesn't really matter.
Imagine going double punt tight end today in the
it's possible.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what we would be wanting to afford, but yeah, that's interesting thought. But all right, let's do another.
Josh Allen is somebody we'd want to have to afford there, right? Which I'd rather go with Herbert on this one, I think, and we're going to play that game, of course, but I want to see what we can do with Herbert. We're assuming McConkey's in.
Yes.
Okay. So Stone Smart's going to go in the line.
Yeah, there's really no one. Oh, look, Bo Nix is finally not chalky. fun. He was just chalky bow like week in and week out for the last 3-4 weeks.
And he had those good games too while he was there.
He's in a good game script today for what it's worth.
Okay, so if Lad's in, I'm playing Lad.
Yeah.
So let's say Lad's in, and we'll get Stone Smart Lad.
That's our double.
And then we're gonna go ahead and grab $3,100 Philly. We're gonna play a Tampa Bay player. You don't have to.
Let's see if we can. Do you want to try to afford Saquon, or no?
Sure.
Let's try and then put in Detroit running back. I'd say for now do Gibbs just to see if, and then obviously we have a 500 buffer if we need to go down in another situation. Mark Cooper going in all my Detroit Buffalo lines today, I think.
Okay. I need a cheap receiver. I think.
Cheap receiver or put in McBride again.
I want McBride.
Okay.
So
we might not be able to play Saquon.
He's so tough, man.
Because if we don't play Saquon and we did another guy,
JT against Denver,
like put in James Conner.
I mean, I have
because we tried to last time. That's enough for Cortland
Sutton. Yeah, I'd rather do that. So makes a lot of sense. Look at all those home games. Holy hell, that's what I like to see.
Now we didn't bring back Tampa Bay, but not necessarily against that because I don't really have a favorite Tampa Bay play.
Mike Evans is probably a favorite, right?
Yeah, but he's just hard to get to on the receiver side because I just kind of don't. I want to live in the middle,
right?
Especially on the afternoon slate. So,
let's see, quarterback.
I think Bucky probably on a value perspective would be my favorite just because of there's not really a ton of running backs that stand out to me. It's just pick your Detroit running back and then insert last guy in kind of thing.
Right.
Depending on if you want to go high, medium, or low.
I mean, we could always grab $500. I don't know if that does anything for us, of course, but it would do what I think it. Yeah. So if you wanted to play this line with Demont, you could go straight up to.
So Connor. No, I'm sorry.
Mike Evans,
Gibbs, and Sutton versus Montgomery and Evans.
Where you get the stack too, the bring back, which I think makes me more comfortable. Is all.
If stack didn't matter, I think I prefer the other option.
Right.
However,
that's fair.
That they're both good.
Yeah,
I like both of them.
Yeah.
The afternoon.
A lot of fun. Awesome. I'm gonna play a lot of lines on this slate.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, the early only, there's a lot of ways to go because there's so many quarterbacks and running backs we love.
Right.
On the afternoon, it's more straightforward because we have a player pool that we have. So probably going to be one or two lines, but because there's so much that we're fading,
Yes.
Really, the only
natural
tough guy
builds
that we're fading are the Philly expensive guys, which is AJ Brown, who's had bad volume, and Saquon, both against not great matchups today.
Yep. All right. So we're going main. We already talked about our quarterback. Court, you want to play in one?
Well,
if it would stop tripping out.
Let's see. Before we start doing that, let's get an update on ownership.
Yeah,
and we'll walk through any kind of changes that we're seeing. So the 5 highest quarterbacks today on a refresh, one is above 10%, and he's the guy that we wanted to fade. Kyler Murray at 10.5. Josh Allen, the second highest at only 6.7%. I'd expect it to get closer to 10, but that's neither here nor there. It's really easy to get over the field is what we're getting at. And then Justin Herbert at 6.2. Joe Burrow, which was 4th highest. He was on our first look, but is pretty windy today. And so we just kind of rather not go that direction. But he is projecting well, and I don't fault you for wanting one line of him. And Jake Daniels at 5, at only 5.4%. Is basically quarterback is just a complete, dart throw today. Running back wise, Chuba Hubbard is the highest owned at 27%.
Yep.
Chase Brown all the way down at 19. That just seems too low, but they're clearly the top 2 options today. James Conner is actually the 3rd highest owned, and then Derrick Henry and Saquon. So really people are trying to spend up top today, but Joe Mixon, who is honorable mention at 6th, I think I prefer above the next 3, being between James Conner, Derrick Henry, Saquon, and Joe Mixon. I think he's my favorite of those 4 today, just for what it's worth.
Okay.
Receiver wise, this is the lowest owned of the chalky receivers that I've seen. But T. Higgins is highest owned at 15.5. Next is Jamar Chase's teammate at 15. Then it's Cortland Sutton at 13. Lad McConkey, who is questionable, but we expect to play at 12.5. And then Brian Thomas is actually 5th. That they're number one, or Jets are number one against receivers this year. So it's not a great matchup, but everybody is out essentially for Jacksonville. So I don't fault that, but
Right.
it's just I'm not getting
He
to
just
the deck.
happens to be a big play player,
Mhm.
which is hard against a team like that. So
And then
I'm not as confident.
tight end wise, there's 2 chalky tight ends, and we love both of them. They're both in the afternoon slate that we mentioned. Trey McBride at 13.5 or 13.9, sorry. By far the highest projected tight end as well. Stone Smart, the chalkiest value at 2,600. He is 12.2%. And then you got Travis Kelsey at 6, Dalton Schultz at 5.7, and then Sam Laporta is at 5.5, which is 5th. Can't believe that Jake Ferguson's not there. And also want to mention Brendan Strange because he's had a solid sample size without Evan Ingram this year.
4.6.
Yeah, 4.6. And then also we shouted out Jeremy Rucker, who's probably going to be like 1% owned. Defense wise, not an extreme chalk, but Jets number one at 11.5%. Baltimore showing at 10.3 against the Giants. Understand that if you can get there. Eagles at 10.2. Denver at 7.9, and then Cleveland, which is the very cheap guy that we're going to love a lot today at 7.4%.
Perfect. Well, let's build a line. Where do you want to start?
All right. Today, I want to start with Josh Allen because we're gonna play 1 to maybe 2 Josh Allen lines today. So we're gonna get the.
It's so nice that we have running backs on this slate.
I know.
So we can actually play. I think I want to try to do all 3 receivers in this game with Jameson instead of
I was gonna
going.
say I don't know if I want to get to Amon-Ra.
No. Instead of going up to a running back here, which makes it.
What is very interesting is that on the afternoon slate, I told you Amon-Ra was the highest on Detroit Lion,
right?
and I mean it's much closer in this one. He's at 10%, which is very very doable, but I still don't want to get there. If I'm talking Detroit receivers, like you mentioned, Jameson Williams being 6% owned, like that's you get triple the field when we do our 5 line builds by just playing one of them. So,
yeah, I think a cheap tight end is going to go in this one because we were sitting at
Stone.
Yeah, we'll play Stone. If you wanted to play Strange, I mean, truly, there's no bad cheap tight end. You're gonna have to.
Not every day you're gonna have 3 basically minimum price tight ends to choose from. So that's pretty fun.
I'd love to put both thumbnails.
Let's see if we
from the first thumbnail, I guess, which would be Chuba and Mr. Chase Brown at 72.
Chase Brown, put Chuba. That's not enough for, but we
Pacheco.
can find $200.
Oh no, I don't need to. I'm gonna play double tight end.
Oh yes,
I'm gonna play double tight end.
Yes, 1,000 times yes.
Holy crap, I love it.
That's a line right there.
I love this line. That's a milli maker right there, boys and girls. I bet it's actually going to be pretty duped, in my personal opinion. Chuba is one of the highest, 19 plus 24.
There's not a single flex player. Again, the Buffalo Detroit game is 8 points higher than the next highest total at 54.5.
Yes,
there is only one player in that game above 10% owned, and we're not playing him.
Who is it?
Amon-Ra.
Oh,
everybody else. We didn't even play Jahmyr Gibbs. He's the second highest owned at 8.5. Khalil is at 8.4. Amari's at 8.2. Jameson's at 6.2. And Josh Allen, for what it's worth, I did mention as one of the highest owned quarterbacks, but he's only at 6.7%. Yep. So even though it seems like it's going to be duped, like that's
well, it's also really double tight end, which makes it not duped, right? It just fixes everything.
Because there's I bet you a lot of people are going to want to try to get to a Brian Robinson or a Rico Dowdle or in the same price Isaiah Pacheco at 6,000. But at the same time, Mr. Trey McBride projects better than all of them. And so yeah, that's fun. I like that.
Who is Cleveland's backup tight end? Just wondering.
So Jordan Akins was the guy that got the most snaps when David Njoku missed this year.
He's going to be out.
But he did not have. He's out also.
He is. Yes, I just got the notification. He is out. So.
He meaning Njoku.
Njoku is out. So,
but Akins, like I said, he was the one that got the most snaps, but he didn't have a great sample size. The game that he missed, it is weeks 2 through 4. You can go down. That's where he had the most snaps out of anybody, and he had one game where he had 7 targets. But then the other 2 games, he had a combined 3 targets.
That was
So,
with Deshaun Watson.
yes,
So
it was.
I'm
But
gonna
this is also
just put that
this
out
is
there.
also the worst weather game on the slate.
Fair.
So, again, if there was no other cheap tight end, sure, we'll throw a line.
Right,
But
right.
he is dead last
I
out
just-
of the 4 to me between
Yeah.
Ruckert, him, Stone Smart, and Brendan Strange.
I agree. I just wanted to put him out there because I did just get that notification come through.
Mhm.
We're going to start getting all the inactive stuff coming through. But this is an awesome line. This will actually,
I
we
love
will
that
be
line.
playing this line. So y'all just
That's
get ready for it. If you're not in our Discord, you won't see our final lines. But if you would like to join, it is in our description. Jump in the Discord. We will be sending all of our lines out 11:30ish.
Let's play.
So
Let's play one quick, one more Josh Allen build.
Okay.
This time I want to do a running back as a bring back, just to see how we can do it.
okay, which one? Let's put Gibbs in.
Okay, let's put Gibbs. And the question is, do you want to? Yeah, I don't know if I want to get away from just Shakir and Cooper as the double.
Sorry, I'm out. Yeah.
If I'm doing a double, I think it's either doing a single with one of them or just doing the double with the 2 safest ones.
Yeah, that's the same.
All right. So once again, I think we got to go down to Stone. And then running back wise, kind of want to still play Chuba. I think he's my favorite play on the entire slate today.
That's fair. I think him and Chase Brown are pretty close in my personal opinion. We haven't played
for 700 cheaper is just awesome.
We haven't played Brian Robinson.
Okay. What can we
5,100? I don't
51.
know.
Let's see.
What receiver would we go to?
We got to find a way to get some Thielen in there for the record.
That's fair. Yeah, 5,400 Thielen.
If you want, because say how much Chuba out of 5 lines do you want? 80%.
Yes,
Okay,
but
so
it's also going to be a Thielen Chuba line with
It is
a
gonna
Bryce Young, so we'll have one with them together. So I'll get 40% Thielen.
So what if we faded Chuba in this one and put Brian Robinson instead?
Wow, 62, and then we have enough for Rico.
We have enough for Rico as a bring back. We have
to also play Trey McBride again. But yeah, so Rico, Isaiah Pacheco, Zay Flowers, like we said earlier, he's an option. We're just not getting on him, but he is a guy that scares me a lot today.
Who were you mentioning? Sorry, I was saying
Zay Flowers. He scares me. He scares me a good amount today. Out of everybody. Trey McBride.
Shoot. So, how much Rico do you want to get? Because we are going to play a lot of the Carolina game. Rico right now is at 13%. Pretty healthy. I don't think that's a top 10 among running backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, 7.
Okay.
7.
I probably only want 1 or 2 lines. 1 or 2. So however that
with that Bryce Young line that we build, are we gonna do the bring back being Fergie or?
I just like other tight ends more. I don't know if I can fade Ferguson. I think I would.
He's so low owned, though.
I think I would have to fade Ferguson.
No.
With Stone Smart being 2,600.
Okay, but we're already way over the field to Stone Smart just by playing 2, and we're probably going to play 3 out of 5 with him.
Yeah, we are.
That's fine.
So
and then Trey McBride will be a standalone on 1 with a cheap quarterback, and then we're going to do the thing with. I mean, he's 4.8%, and he is the best tight end matchup.
I know,
today.
I know he is. Oh, it's tough. Okay, 5,000. Tell me what you want.
Nothing. But I'm just saying. I'm not saying we have to play him in this line, but I'm just excited to play him today.
Quinn Johnson.
No.
All right, so 2,600 Stone Smart.
Yeah, in this line we pretty much got to go cheap tight end.
Yeah. Okay, and then 6,200.
So Rico versus Isaiah, who speaks to you more today?
Oh, it's got to be Rico because I don't know what Isaiah's touch count will be, but I think Isaiah has obviously the higher ceiling. So
for what it's worth, I actually don't agree with that. I think he has a safer floor.
Today?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. Okay.
But for what it's worth, he had 46% of the snaps last week, which was a increase off of the previous week. So you would anticipate trending in towards 50 to 55% today.
Mhm.
But he still had, I think, 18 touches last week. So
Right.
he got the opportunities. On top of that being an ugly weather game, that's a slight boost to running backs. And on top of that, if you're playing the ownership game, he is 7.9% owned compared to Rico Dowdle, who is 13. Um, that's just kind of my argument for Isaiah. But at the same time, Rico has had back-to-back games
Gives
over
100
100
yards.
yards.
Yeah.
He has all the snaps
They're
that
playing
he's getting.
Carolina.
They're playing Carolina, dead last against running backs as well.
I'd probably side with Rico.
Let's go with Rico then.
I have to pee, so I'm gonna let you
All
take
right.
this.
Give me that mouse.
And you're gonna
Here,
make.
actually, while you do go, I'm gonna scroll through some news updates since inactive list just came out at 10:30. And again, we're transitioning the final half hour of the show. If you do have any start sit questions, last minute guys in, or any suggestions on lines, anything you want to build, just let us know, and we'll do our takes the best we can from that line. For what it's worth, like Em said, David Njoku is out. Tony Pollard missed practice most of the week, but he is in. But he is banged up for what it's worth. And then Brees Hall is up. That basically means nothing to me other than just you can fade the Jets running backs today. Bucky Irving is expected to play today. That was as of 9 hours ago, though. Let's see. Still, there wasn't really much we were waiting on, honestly. Really, the biggest one, because we do like Justin Herbert today, is Lad McConkey, and that's not even really going to be figured out until 2:00, 2:30, when we get that information for the 3:00 games. But that is one we're thinking about. Dusty, we appreciate that compliment with the honesty and openness on this show. Let's see here. Once again, our third build, quarterback wise, we just did 2 Josh Allen builds. I probably want to, with this slate today, since quarterback is so spread out of them. I know we just did 2 Josh Allen builds. The rest of the way for our final 3, do you want to just do one line of each since quarterback is so low owned today, or do you want to double up on one of the quarterbacks we mentioned earlier?
I think. Well, what is Dustin talking about? First off,
Well, I don't know.
that was just wondering.
Yeah, he said while M's gone, throwing Dortch.
Oh yeah, for
Yep.
sure. I guess I would try to make it 2-2-1. Truly,
Really?
yeah, I think so. I want a Bryce Young line.
Okay.
And I need to know who your other quarterbacks are that
Well,
you really have
I
to
was
have.
heavily considering a Jaden. I was heavily considering a Tua.
Okay.
I probably would say let's stay away from Herbert.
Okay, so I want to
Unfortunately.
stay away from Jaden, I think.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Like I said, I didn't want to play Terry other than a Jaden line, so I'm fine fading Terry and just going with Brian Robinson as my favorite Washington play today. Our thumbnail. So let's go back to a Tua build. Let's build. We did an early only look that we liked with him, but now we do the main.
Tyreek.
So yeah, we got to go Tyreek. Let's throw in Waddle. Let's for now throw in cheap defense. I don't know if I want to go 100% Cleveland today, but they're just so cheap in a low total game, bad weather, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Waddle.
Houston.
Let's put Chuba back in.
Do you want a Houston player?
Yes, I want Joe Mixon in this line. And we'll go Chuba. Or did we fade Chuba last? Yes, we did. We did the Adam Thielen line. So
Yep.
Chuba has to be in the rest of the way. Tight end wise, probably have to go cheap again.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot more Stone Smart than you thought.
No,
so you know.
we're gonna. That's fine.
I'm okay with it.
Check it out. And then after this,
58.50. That's a solid number right there. I think
3,100. No, that's way too much.
That's a lot of money.
Well,
you could go, you can get Saquon if you went down to Diami.
I don't want Saquon though.
That's fair. I'm with you on that actually.
I was trying to do the math of getting to Trey McBride as a standalone, but I don't think I can with this line at least.
Not with
How about?
Well, you go Amari because we have no Detroit.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and then also let's see. I was really wanting to get up to Chase Brown, but obviously we're missing 800. That's tough. Is there a way that we could fade in one of the lines, just fade the Buffalo Detroit game, or do you want exposure in every line?
It's just so much higher.
Because like Amari, even though I do like him as a play, it is very risky to have him in almost every line,
Yeah.
And because they're so low owned, like
and
getting
he's
him
hated,
3 out of 5, that's
he's
way over the
hated by
field.
projection.
Yeah. Or
I'd-
not necessarily by projection, but just ownership
I mean,
wise.
I'd rather just do Jameson Williams and Khalil Shakur, so that's an option. Just to put it, if you wanted to get that game, that's a way to get that game in this lineup.
What if we didn't want to force the bring back of Joe? Or
I'm okay with not playing Joe.
okay, well then put Chase Brown in there.
I don't think we have to have a bring back today on this.
That's what I'm saying. I think we can break some rules.
What about $7,000? Where are you? Wrong thing. We're gonna play $7,000 David Montgomery and $5,300 Amari Cooper.
That's good.
Like
That'll
that.
work.
I like the other line more.
What do you mean?
I like the first line more with Josh.
Yeah.
Then that line was awesome.
That was a
really cool line. So, yeah, I think there's a few ways to build Tua. This is with Waddle. I think you could do it where I think you can single stack him. Weirdly enough.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to, but on main, I think you can because there are so many games, and there's a lot of places we want to, get.
And
lines.
for what it's worth, once again, I'm going through Miami exposure. 2 is 4% owned. So just doing a single of him with Tyreek, who is 6% owned, they barely combine for 10% ownership. So, like, you're different from the field just by playing Miami, and I don't get why projections don't love them today.
10% of 900%. All right, so I want to do Bryce Young.
Okay.
Weirdly enough, I'm really coming around to Bryce Young on this slate.
Okay.
He's just playing Dallas, 28th overall. No Trayvon Diggs.
So yeah, so let's force in Chuba and Adam Thielen. That's the way I want to do it, and I believe you're in agreement.
Yeah.
Now, because we're going so cheap at quarterback, I don't know if we have to go Stone Smart in this line.
That's fine.
Let's throw in Trey McBride. And yeah, Cleveland.
Well, we don't have to go cheap.
Well, let's do. I'd rather do cheap defense and Trey than try to another cheap tight end and expensive defense.
It's fine.
If that makes sense. Okay, and then
Dallas. We just got rid of our tight end spot. Just saying, we could double tight end, but
we could. I don't know if my only Jake Ferguson line. I don't know. Let's see what we want to do. Let's do Chase Brown. 72 because we couldn't afford him last time, and I think I want him at minimum 3 out of 5, right?
Yeah, 3.
So
60%.
This would be the rest of the way going with Chase Brown and Chuba, and then a lot of directions to go.
5,800 is a pretty solid price. We don't have Detroit, Buffalo. The problem is I don't know what Buffalo player I want just out of standalone wise. I'm down to standalone Detroit. That's not a problem. Do we want to play a New England cheap receiver?
I'd rather not.
Well, then you get 7,000 per player.
No. Let's go back down to Jake Ferguson real quick. I'm trying to see something because that saves you $2,200, and then you don't have to do double tight end. Obviously, I'd rather do 3 running backs if I had to.
Which one?
Well, I didn't get that far.
We have some serious money here, is what I'm getting at.
How many Brian Robinsons have we played?
1.
Just 1? So then put in Brian. Those are my 3 favorite running backs today. So put them all in. 6,700 left is pretty nice. Unfortunately, I was trying to get Devontae and Devontae and Cortland, but obviously could not fit that. We have yet to put in Cortland in a line, and I like Cortland today.
Okay. I can throw him in. He's 6,600 though. 6,800. I have a question. Whoa, 59. What? I wasn't gonna play Cortland. I was gonna play Devontae and Jalen. Well, no. I have Thielen already. Okay. Let's go to Vontae. 56 would be Jalen Waddle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, Jameson Williams, which
It's fine.
is fine. Jalen Waddle's $100 more. We could always go get
Tyreek,
Tyreek. Where
74.
okay. 51, but I have $900 if you want. That's 6,000.
What is 6,000? That is
Zay
for
Flowers.
Zay.
That's it.
Fooey.
Yeah, because we can't play another running back.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I wish I could play 4 sometimes.
Amen. I think that would have made a lot of sense. Nix and Sutton stack. I mean, I don't hate it. I'm not playing Nate Bo Nix today. I think that there's better options, but Nix does have the rushing upside. So if you wanted to go that way, I'm not against it. I think Sutton though is a good
Indy's
play.
a bad defense.
They
and
are.
I trust their pass game because they just committee the hell out of their running backs. It's been frustrating.
They're slicing and dicing them out there. But
all right, let's put a button on it.
I don't want that. Sorry. In this line.
Who'd you take out?
Brian.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm gonna go down.
So we're only playing 2 Bryans.
I guess so. That's still way over the field, but I guess so. And then that allows me to go here.
53 is Amari.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, it's just I'd rather have a Detroit player. I'd rather have 5,600. Actually, how about this? We'll play Sutton, damn it.
But again, we also haven't played Devontae yet, and I like Devontae today.
Yeah, I know. But this at least gives us Jameson Williams, and that makes me feel better. Bam. Yes, no, maybe so.
What if... Damn.
Hey, Jake Ferguson makes things
rank.
Just kidding.
One more time. Rank. Never mind.
Okay.
I already asked that question, but you earlier was saying Tyreek, CD, then Devontae as your 3.
Yeah.
So Devontae being 3rd, I'm fine with just having one line. Sadly.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Last line.
Pick it.
Okay. So
this one will be quick, I feel like.
Yeah, well, we just gotta pick the quarterback. So, well, actually, here's my question.
Okay.
If we did, because you probably don't want to do an Aaron Rodgers build, right?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So, would you rather do 2 Tuas or 2 of Bryce?
I think either way, I'm going to single stack them on the second one.
Okay.
So Bryce is more comfortable though.
So then we would only have 3 Chuba lines then.
I guess so.
I don't like that. Let's do a Tua single.
Okay.
And in that result, I think I'd rather just fade Tyreek from the previous line and put in Devontae instead, and then find 500 for something, which we'll finalize our final builds around 11:30.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's do this, and then I want to really quickly address the primetime slate since we have a couple of minutes. But yeah, Tua single with Tyreek, and then yes, and put in Chuba, put in Chase Brown. And we have to put in Brian Robinson in this one. Because we're not playing only one Brian Robinson line. That's just crazy. And then let's defense-wise go all the way down.
Okay.
We got 48 left. We do whatever we want if we went cheap tight end, or we can go expensive tight end and cheap receiver.
Diami,
at least 53 for Amari again.
Just makes sense.
It does. It just organically fits a lot.
I'd rather have Adam Thielen either way, even with Chuba in this line.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with 2 single standalone Carolina players because of their volume. Go all the way down at tight end.
Funny enough, they don't have to be standalones.
Well, you said you want to do a single stack. If the answer was a single, I prefer a single than Bryce
No,
Young
I
single.
meant taking away Brian Robinson and
Oh.
putting in Rico.
No, well, that's just not happening.
Smart.
Yep.
87.
Take out Diami. All right.
59.
I feel better now.
Okay.
All
Now
right.
what are we gonna do?
Cry.
We're gonna play somebody in this range, most likely. Or do you want to try? You want Devontae, right?
Yes.
Okay. 4,900 means nothing to me.
It means nothing.
All right, Kim. Here you go. Let's do this.
I don't know.
What do you not know?
I'm having second thoughts.
On which part?
The quarterback.
I'm telling you, it's easier with Bryce.
But I'd rather just do two doubles instead of.
It's fine. We'll do two doubles.
Then yeah, put Bryce Young in.
Oh goodness gracious. 53. All right, and then
take out Bourne, and then go back to no. You can leave that. You can just go back to Stone, and I think that's enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
56.
Perfect.
Okay.
Happy boy.
54. Bam. Okay. I like it. I do.
We're
Solid
fading the Buffalo game, but this is the only game that or the only line that
we were
doing that
fading
with.
it in. Yeah, for sure. Cool. I'm all about it.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, we got a couple minutes left. Again, any last minute start, sit questions or last guys in or quick build you want us to go through, just let us know. But we're gonna go to the primetime, unless you prefer. It's kind of a little strange.
Well, I mean,
no, I want the primetime.
We get
Three-gamer.
Currently we get more views just doing one gamers. So you know.
Well, hey,
but sooner or later people are gonna jump onto the fact that there's more than one slate.
All right. So three games are fun environment. So Atlanta and Las Vegas, two teams in the wrong direction that are able to put up points with, the safe guys that we know who gets the ball. Chicago, Minnesota, again, was a banger of a game a couple of weeks ago from a fantasy perspective. And then Green Bay, Seattle, both defense is good, but not great and have given up points. So we're going to start this line by putting in Zach Charbonnet because that's the only lock of this slate because Kendall Walker officially doubtful and only $6,000. We're throwing his ass in there. All right. Quarterback wise.
That's the hard part.
Caleb's 57. Pretty reasonable.
Yep.
Kirk, I'm worried he's in risk of being benched. So even though it's a good matchup, I don't want to play him because he's had 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. And obviously we bit the bullet last week. He did go for 350. He just didn't throw a touchdown. But I was okay with that value that we got on him. The bummer part was Drake London really just having 12 points at 6,400. But I'd rather attack the running game from Atlanta today anyways. So you putting in Bijan, who's been finally getting the volume he deserves to have. Really, to me, it comes down to Sam Darnold, who's playing lights out, or Caleb Williams as the quarterback for this slate to me.
I would rather play Caleb Williams.
All right, let's do Caleb.
Because Sam Darnold is in a very tough matchup. All the
receivers are cheap too. And on top of that, again, Cole Kmet had a touchdown last time they played. DJ Moore went for 100 and a score. Keenan Allen had 20 points. And then Rome didn't have a great fantasy game, but he had 10 targets.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're 32nd. Like that's everything you need to know. If you look at the other side, Chicago, if you pick a Minnesota, like JJ, third.
Yeah.
But he's only 8,200. Holy crap.
He only had 2 receptions.
Yeah.
So it is a bad matchup. And if the reason that this slate's so interesting, there's a lot of running backs in great spots. And I know you were about to click on Sincere McCormick because he is the official starter now. But Aaron Jones had 20 points last time he played. Also, Travis Homer at minimum price could be a great play if DeAndre Swift is out. Already Rashawn Johnson's out. So a lot of spots, a lot of different directions. And we didn't even mention Josh Jacobs, who basically is getting 20 points every week.
Yep.
So a lot of fun directions to go. Defense-wise, let's click on one. I don't know if I really have a vibe on one other than
I'm picking Seattle outright.
Yeah, I guess Seattle versus Packers, whoever you are picking outright, I guess would be my default.
It's
It's hard
it's fine.
because even Atlanta has been bad.
Yeah, I was
Worse
gonna say pick
because
the Raiders, but like we're so bad.
yeah, and Max
So
Crosby's out for the year. So
yeah, it's yeah, I'm okay. Let's just go with Seattle,
okay.
and if we have $300, we'll go up.
Now your secondary option would it be Keenan or Rome for this double?
Keenan.
All right, let's rock him in.
Yep.
All
Keenan.
right, tight end wise, let's do that, and then we'll go back to receiver. The thing is, we're playing a Raider. Do you want to go to Brock or do you want to go to Jacoby?
Jacoby.
Jacoby.
Jacoby's
All right.
the option.
So then, my preference on let's go ahead and click him in. Tight end wise, we could play both of them. And honestly, Sincere McCormick only being 51 is in that pool.
Running backs.
No, I know we're going to. So the thing is, put in TJ.
Bring back is TJ.
Okay. I think my favorite bring back is Aaron Jones, but we couldn't get there unless we had to get uncomfortable at tight end. But then right now, last guy in being JSN is fun. But you wanted to fade him on the showdown.
I think DK has a better day today. I don't know though. What is I mean?
Let's look at the ownership real quick.
Yeah.
Because the ownership's just completely different on a primetime slate.
Let's see.
For what it's worth, Sincere McCormick is showing under 10% owned. So that's ridiculous. That's a great leverage play on a 3-gamer.
Zach Charbonnet is showing 84%.
And I'm still playing him.
And he's going in every line.
The only problem is I'm not as confident in what prop to play if you were picking a prop for tonight. Right now I'm leaning at the very moment of 61.5 rushing yards, but he has a lot of pass catching upside. He had 30. He hit his over on the pass catching yardage prop that I had last week in the first drive.
Yeah.
So like that's also capable.
I hate having to play against him this week in fantasy.
Yeah. Well, JSN and DK are both about 25 to 28%. I don't know. Tight end wise, it's pretty spread out. Brock is only at 24%. That's pretty good.
That's pretty low. And he's obviously the best value and play on the slate. I would say we side with DK in this line, but
okay.
But that's damn. I can't side with DK and then play Green Bay's defense. Shit. Because that's what I was gonna do. It's like, well, then I'll have $300. Doesn't matter. Because I don't want to go up and play if I'm not playing a Green Bay player either.
You can break more rules on small slates like this, but also that leaves 2 Seattle players. So that was the thing that was kind of risky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like this slate a lot. There's a lot of directions to go. So I'm definitely going to be playing maybe 1 to 2 lines in this slate tonight. So be on the lookout.
This guy scares me the most.
Yes.
What do I do? Because when he's good, he's good.
And the thing is, because Usag, nobody's going to play him.
I know.
Right now, it would be 7%.
That's nuts.
That's nuts for how good he is. And he wasn't a Debo where he just couldn't get open or he just didn't get thrown the ball after the first set or wherever that drive went.
Whoops. Yeah. So that was our line. Sorry, I'm gonna go because I want to do the. You don't want to do Sunday Night Football. We're doing Sunday Night Football.
It's not that I don't do it. It's just I hate the fact that I have to play a Green Bay receiver and all of them are the same price and all of them are just inconsistent. That's the problem.
Whoa.
That's a different screen.
Never seen that one before. Lineups. All right. Cam hit a lineups.
Okay.
Hopefully. Okay. Oh, it's showing me there. No.
There it is.
Okay. Let's talk for this game, Green Bay, Seattle. Your score, what your game script on this game?
I think it's a tough game. Like it's a complete toss-up to me. I went with 24-20 in favor of Green Bay. They're actually a 2.5-point favorite on the road in this game. I just think that they're the better overall team right now. But both of these teams kind of inconsistent based on how they play.
Right.
I will say Jair Alexander is out, so you siding with the DK does make a little more sense now. But JSN, hell of a call this year on our part.
Absolutely.
Playing him one of our best calls of the year. Him being, I think, wide receiver 5 overall. He's been very consistent. I think he's had 6 catches in 6 straight games. He's getting the most targets, all that. but the upside is a DK, and if there's any positive touchdown regression, it's coming his way
Right.
because his price is just dipping down and down, and he's just kind of due.
So my favorite play on the slate. I'm sorry, my game script. I had it at a 3-point game in favor of the Seattle Seahawks. I had it at 27-24. I just think at home, Seattle, they're going to find a way to win. I think it's one of those games with the last person to have the ball wins the game. And I don't think that I think Green Bay has been overvalued in a lot of lines recently. And I don't know why. And the fact I actually kind of find it a little bit weird that it's not like a pick 'em or something even closer because Seattle is at home. They have the, that little bit. So I will be picking Seattle 27-24. My must play, Cam took it. It was Zach Charbonnet.
We can always have the same one.
It's
It's not like
yeah.
on certain slates, especially like these.
This is not fair. It's
just not a fair price, and he's going to be the most owned guy, and I just don't think you can avoid him today. The only thing that's going to hurt him is if there's an injury, but everybody's going to suffer from, except for the 15 to 20% that fade him.
Yeah, and I think
it's just not worth that risk.
Yeah,
I'm not going to root for injury on being the only reason that I'm different.
Fair. But otherwise, your fade. Wanted to see what was your fade.
My fade was Christian Watson, and the main reason was because just when Romeo Doubs is in, all of his snaps are down, his targets are down, and last 2 games he's been above 90% of the snaps. He had a 100-yard game, which we called this past week, but it's just him being the inconsistent guy, and with Romeo Doubs being back, who's been the safest of the targets. It's not like he has the most upside. He just has the floor, and him being 6,600. Ownership wise, between all of these receivers, Christian's actually, and again, RotoWire doesn't know how to do ownership projections on a showdown, but he's showing at least as the lowest owned of all the Green Bay receivers minus Dontavian Wicks. So I'm just kind of going to side with that.
Fair enough. I would also like to point out that Jaden Reed is not necessarily a consistent player himself. So there's that. But I'm actually going to be fading JSN. I think you have to pick one of the receivers for Seattle, basically. So if I have to pick one, I picked DK in this situation. So that's why JSN is going to be a guy that I'm not going to be get to. That is a scary fade. It's not a comfortable fade, but it's just the fact that I have to pick one of those guys.
Well, even when I pointed out Cooper Kupp as a fade, and you kind of were on the same boat with the Thursday showdown, we didn't expect 0 for 0.
Right.
But at the same time, we were just like, you have to pick one of those expensive guys to fade. And to me, if I'm gonna fade, or if I'm gonna play multiple top receivers versus playing both of the stud running backs that are gonna raw points wise going to blow everybody out of the water, I'd rather just force those guys in, which is why both Josh Jacobs and Charbonnet were our top plays.
Right. And then our contrarian plays. My contrarian play is Romeo Doubs because he is going to be getting the targets. He's going to be the most. I think he's the safest highest floor of all the guys. The other guy that is we haven't said is Tucker Kraft. He's 5,800, I believe, and that's a solid price too. So both of those guys I think are in play because I think they have a high enough floor without the inconsistencies.
And my contrarian play actually was Noah Fant, which I haven't said his name in a long time, but he suffered an injury and missed a couple games, but he came back 67% of the snaps and then roughly 60 last week in a negative game script against Arizona. 4 targets in both games. He's had the boom games, obviously, before he did get hurt. You see a 63-yard game, a 65-yard game. He's got the 10-point upside, which at 3,600, when you're playing the most snaps, is very interesting to me. But also, I did want to point out Pharaoh Brown being the highest value on the board for RotoWire, but him actually playing, what was it? He's played at least 25% of the snaps in 4 straight games and 6 of the last 7. Last game was his least snaps of any of them, but he had average 40% of the snaps in the previous 3 weeks, and I believe he's had a target in multiple of those games. So him being only $400 allows you to get up to 5 targets in 3 games, kind of what you want for basically minimum price guy, and being able to try to force the 2 expensive running backs, maybe getting a quarterback or 2, and then pairing with some top receivers. That's one of the ways to do it, is getting down low. And him or Jake Bobo, like those kinds of guys getting the targets. But because of his snap share, that's why I pointed him out.
Fair enough. Okay, so let's start building this lineup. On the our main captain will be Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna play a non-Charbonnet captain.
Yeah. The other guy that I like getting to is Josh Jacobs because just raw points wise, he makes a lot of sense.
Which quarterback do you prefer?
Jordan Love.
Then let's put Jordan Love in.
Okay.
All right. So
play what?
Just tough. The tough range after this because you got to get back up to a DK.
Yeah, if you're gonna play DK,
because I don't think I can fade both JSN and DK.
Yeah. Okay. Go cheap. I mean, like I said, you do have the opportunity to get Tucker Kraft. He's an option here, 5,800. And then going down to say, I don't know, someone down here.
Do you like either kicker in this game?
Yeah, I always like kickers. They've been killing it this year.
So
I hate it's a love-hate relationship.
Well, just playing one of them allows you to fit like a Jake Bobo, who again I just mentioned, but he's had games with multiple targets and stuff. He's played 25% of the snaps essentially over the last 3 weeks, and honestly, Tyler Lockett's role is kind of diminishing by the week. So, wide receiver 3.5 for $1,000.
I think I'll be honest. I think I'd rather play Chris Brooks.
Okay. Problem is, if you do that, we're playing Jordan Love.
He's 24, so that's tough.
If we're doing Jordan Love, we're not.
Both running backs. Yeah,
that's the thing that's kind of tough, and why I kind of prefer Geno Smith, just because organically you're able to make
you're going to play either DK or JSN naturally. I'd like to get to 6,600 here, but it's not going to
100 short.
Yeah, it's not going to be the right range. It's a little tough. But like I said, Tucker Kraft is here. That gives you 1,100. You could throw
but if
Bobo
you want it,
in.
And again, I think the cash way to go in this showdown is going Charbonnet at captain, because he's going to have like north of 25% ownership at captain.
At cap, yeah.
So in that same where we were 100 short, going 600 cheaper at DK, but then flipping him to captain, and you're praying for the upside against Jair, you're able to afford a Pharaoh Brown.
Right.
And again, he's the highest value on the slate, followed by Jay Bobo, who we mentioned. So that's just kind of the ways I'm trying to fit the last guy in and make a little bit more sense with this line.
What about, because I did say Chris.
And on top of that, you pick in Seattle, you want a 4-2 build,
Oh,
it's tough.
Just short. Okay. I just wanted to see. Okay. So we're going to put in then Dobbs and play, say, Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't believe in, no, actually you can't afford him. Never mind. Yeah, we're not playing Watson. Screw that guy. But yeah, I like this. Well, instead of Dobbs as last guy.
Oh yeah.
Because I was thinking you could.
Yeah, he's $200 more. But yeah, I like this line though.
Yeah, and it paints a good picture. 4-2 build, I think, is very fine and viable. That's more towards your gut call with Seattle winning. So I don't mind it at all. I just think it's really hard, even though Jordan Love, not only from a talent perspective, but even from a raw fantasy points perspective, I prefer him. Again, getting for Jordan Love, you got to get multiple like receivers, honestly, from Green Bay to make it comfortable, at least from a narrative perspective. And you can't really do that without fading Josh Jacobs, and I don't love doing that.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think the problem is Josh Jacobs is 11-4. If you didn't play Josh Jacobs, what's his ownership? Just wondering for a real quick reference.
I mean, right now he's showing at 43%.
That's
and
low.
I don't think
that's too low.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because Zach Charbonnet is showing at 55, and he's going to be like 80% owned.
Yeah.
And I know McManus is not going to be 89. So
okay, weird. But yeah, so I'd expect Josh Jacobs to be 60-ish, 65-ish. And so getting off of him is going to be really, really difficult. But I don't think it's impossible. It's just, what are you going to do if you do get off of him? Are you going to play Geno and like Zach and DK and then try to figure out which? I'd rather not try to figure out which receiver for Green Bay is going to go off.
That's what. Exactly.
So I get it. But let's stop. All right.
11.
Nice time. Make a wish. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We will be sending our lines into the chat here in a minute. So if y'all are in our Discord, you will get those. If you are not in our Discord, you will not see those. But we will also be sending any prize picks or underdog picks that we have. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us, and another great slate. So hopefully
I'm
we can make
excited
some
for
money.
the slate, and even though we are kind of pushing it, we typically have evented the stream around 11. Like all the lines, I don't know how many more changes we're really going to do. Maybe we'll do some tweaks with the early only,
Right.
Because it was a couple hours ago that we built. But yeah, those mains that we did were really fun.
I'm really comfortable. Actually, there's just some guys I like getting to, and I'm gonna get to them in like 80% of my lines. So it's just like naturally gonna build that way.
Yeah, my only like last minute change might be, oh, maybe I actually do prefer a two lines instead of Bryce Young. That's the only thing I'm really fighting with right now. But
I'm picking Bryce Young
okay.
personally, but if
I'm just
we
saying Tua has been on absolute fire lately. So
absolutely
and it's in a good game environment. But yeah, we appreciate you guys tuning in. We only got a couple more of these live streams left the rest of the regular season.
Mhm.
I don't know how we're really going to attack the playoff slate because those are taking place Saturday and Sundays.
Right.
So we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But college football bowl season's underway. We have a lot of fun stuff that we're looking forward to, and we're going to have some more than just like our typical, college football recap and NFL Sunday lives and first look stuff, because we're gonna have Christmas specials coming soon, and then obviously with the last week of the season not having any primetime games, gonna be kind of pretty straightforward with just all afternoon games and a lot of value because people will be resting and stuff. So
Right.
a lot of fun stuff, retrospective stuff that we'll react to. Obviously, basketball playoffs are going on, and we're doing pretty well there, and hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah.
So
We'll get some prospects out to y'all for in a NCAA drafts, and then of course the draft stuff. So that's always one of my favorite things to do. So we'll get into that pretty soon. A lot of fun stuff, but we will see y'all next time.